what you already did. Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Lord of the Rings. Well, I think there's still one option that you've yet to explore. It's the series about a girl and her robotic dinosaurs. Now I know what you're all thinking, hey, isn't this a bit of a stretch? Horizon's fan base has been shrinking. It might be pretty, but there's always a catch. I've only met one person in my whole damn life who had an insatiable Horizon appetite. Everybody else doesn't care that much, but Herman Hulse doesn't really give a fuck. So here you go, world, it's Horizon again. If you got money, it's time to spend. It's got multiplayer, find a friend. Open up your mouth, girl, let me pour some Horizon in. It's sweet like honey, so give us all your money. Oh wait, oh fuck, no one's buying the game. I thought Horizon was as cool as Star Wars. I guess it turns out it's just kinda lame. Ooh, holy crap, oh no, why doesn't anybody care? Horizon is just as cool as all those other Lego games. Even though the evidence makes it seem like it's irrelevant, Lego Horizon flopped. I'm not sure why they bothered trying. All of its fans must have been lying. Lego Horizon flopped, Horizon. Guess Sony is gonna have to try again. Skeep-a-doop-bop, boop, deep-a-deep-a-doo-da, Robo-dino, skip-bop, skip-bop, deep-a-deep-a-deep-a-boo-bop, going till the doo-dot, beep-bop-a-noo-ta. Horizon should never had a Lego game. Whoever greenlit that must have been fucking insane. Lego Horizon flopped. I'm not sure why they bothered trying. All of its fans must have been lying. Lego Horizon flopped, Horizon. Guess Sony is gonna have to try again. Sorry Herman Hulse, guess he didn't make a new Star Wars after all. Sorry Herman Hulse, just another day of ya dropping the ball.
Imagine a hero shooter where the hero never showed. Imagine a game with a player base that just refused to grow. A 5v5 hero shooter with gameplay that's just okay, and characters that remind me of Tupperware and white bread. No, I'm not talking about Overwatch. Please stop bringing up Overwatch. This game is not Overwatch. It's actually something else. Imagine a game with a story that no one watches. A game that costs $40 that Sony totally botches. It has all my favorite characters, like Lemmy, Dawn, and Craig. At least, I think that's what their names are. I never bothered to check. Concord like the grave, your legacy is safe. As a game that no one played, and a price that no one paid. Boop-a-doop-ba, deep-a-doop-da, scoop-a-boop-ba, beep-beep-beep-beep-beep, phlegm. Concord was about as good as accidentally peeing on your own leg. Concord, we're here to lay you to rest. We know you tried your best. You copied so much cool stuff just to turn out lame in the end. I'll never forget my favorite moments, like when Hot Sauce Guy jumped. Remember when he jumped? That was really cool. A rat just ran by on my desk, and even the rat didn't want to play Concord, even though I blessed him with the chance. The $40 he could afford, but the rat just stared on in a trance. Rat, 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 rat. Concord's dead. Rat, 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 rat. Concord's dead. The cost Costco guys made more money than you. They were just on Jimmy Fallon too. Imagine Lennox being on Jimmy Fallon, because I literally can't. The rat on my desk is eating all my Cheerios and grapes. And also Concord is dead. Concord like the grave. Your legacy is safe as a game that no one played, and a price that no one paid. Rat-a-tat-a-beep-a-dap, skim milk, the rat freak, doo-da, doo-da. A guy said he really liked it, and then a bunch of rats ate his face. That's the sound he made when Concord passed away. I wish things turned out different, but either way I'm getting paid. Concord's dead, Concord's dead, and boy is my face red. When the game came out, everybody overslept. Concord's dead, Concord's dead. Holy crap, Lois, Concord's dead. When the game out, people played everything else instead.
Welcome, welcome everyone. Welcome. I've missed you. I've missed you. But we're back, rocking and rolling. With much to discuss, of course. Assassin's Creed. Saber Interactive CEO teasing the developers of the Saints Row reboot. You know how it is. You know how it be. It do be good. How are you guys? How are you guys? I am a little wheezy, for I made the mistake of working out this morning. So I'm a little... So bear with me. Bear with me. And yes, I told my wife how you guys made fun of me, because when I cough, when I'm wheezy like this, I hiccup. I don't know why. I don't know why. Gotta be careful. I don't know what it is, but I do that. She was like, yeah, it is weird. I was like, you're supposed to defend me. You're supposed to be on my side. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Yeah, that review, quote unquote. Yeah, the review was more of a critique. That was me trying to tone it down, by the way. Like, do I have my... Where's my notes? Yeah, like I had taken a bunch of notes. This is just like from my initial tidbits. Like these were just like little notes I had taken about the story, about timestamps for different things, and all sorts of stuff. And I ended up like, basically what I do when I'm reviewing something is I'll play it and I'll start at the top, and every like, I don't know, every few minutes, if something interesting happens, I stop and I write down, or I do voice to text my notes, and I go through it and usually have a pretty long list of notes by the time I'm actually done with the game. And ideally I have timestamps, but like I go through it, you know, in like chronologically. So at the start of my playthrough, I might have really bad things to say, or I might have really good things to say, and my opinion changes over time, but it just shifts and evolves as you go through the game. So it's kind of cool to go back and be able to see the notes of what I said at hour 1 versus hour 5 versus hour 20, which is kind of nice to be able to sift through. But I had a bajillion notes, pages and pages and pages and pages. And I was looking at it the last few days, and I was like, I don't think this works. I've got to trim it down. This is going to be a 5-hour review. So I tried to whittle it down like that, but that's what we ended up with. An hour, even after all of that. Because it just got to the point where I was like, I feel like I won't be able to hit on everything that I want to hit on if I try to trim it to like 10 minutes, you know? And so I was like, I'll just let the line out a little bit. So you know, it got the job done. It got the job done, I think. And hopefully, you know, whether you think what I describe in that review sounds awesome or terrible, you can at least make a more informed decision, because it's not a game for everybody. AC Shadows to give, I guess we can do this. Where is it? So new mini segment. So AC Shadows reviews are up. It's sitting at like 82, 83-ish on Metacritic, just about there. Pretty much exactly where you'd expect. It's like a solid B, I think, for most people. You know, it's like a B minus. And I think that that's probably fair. There's things I really like about it, that, you know, the new direction they're taking it specifically away from Valhalla.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
This is in many ways the anti-Valhalla game, which I can appreciate. You know, I can appreciate that. But at times, you know, as with anything, when you're trying to trim fat, sometimes you accidentally trim some of the meat as well. And I think they did that in a few spots here as well. I think they tried really hard to go more focused, to whittle it down into core components, and not just have, like, you know, the popcorn bucket of nonsense that Valhalla was. And so as a result, the game is much more focused. It's much tighter in terms of what you're tasked with doing at moment to moment. But similar to Mirage. Yeah, I mean, it's similar in that they were not trying to make this the everything game, because Valhalla kind of just turned into a weird single player MMO kind of game. Like, it played like an MMO, but it was single player. It was just weird. But it meant that you ended up with a bunch of systems that weren't really fleshed out, and they were fine, like fine little mini games, but not much beyond that. But in this case, it's much more focused. I just think at times they probably trimmed too much. I still insist, and I beg and plead, if any Ubisoft developers ever see this, please add back in the ability to toggle from day to night and night to day, but most importantly, day to night, because doing stealth missions and breaking into castles and stuff to collect loot and kill bosses and stuff, that is super fun and super cool at night. At 10 in the morning, it's not that fun. It just isn't. So allow players to shift forward to nighttime when they want to for those missions. I understand, well, we don't want players to just be able to freely do that, because then they'll put it at nighttime 24/7. I get that. Make it like expensive. Make them spend 2 scouts to like keep watch while you rest and wait for nightfall. Do something like that. But I think that would make a big improvement. That would help a lot. But having said that, it plays very, very differently. It's much more slow and methodical. And so I think a lot of like the ADHD brain players that liked how much hand-holding there was with Valhalla, that liked how guided and overwhelming the map was, because there was always a little piece of candy, they probably won't like Shadows that much, because Shadows is very intentionally not throwing a ton of garbage all over. It's much more precise, and there's still stuff to be found even in spots that don't have POIs, but you have to go and look for those. You have to go and find them and seek them out, or stumble across them more like, which I love. But I know that people that really love checklist style game design might not like that. So that's one thing that I think you need to be aware of, is that it's just different. It's very, very different. So I would expect like some diehard Valhalla fans probably don't like Shadows, frankly. But I started like 5 to 10 hours in, really, I don't know what we're doing here. I'm not sure. But after I got to about the 12-hour mark and I really started to get a feel for the combat systems, I really cranked the difficulty up and pushed myself to be more intentional with stealth and things like that. I actually started to really dig it. It's still got plenty of problems, plenty of things I would change. The writing is pretty dry. Yasuke, I still insist, I don't know why I know why he's in the game. I don't think his inclusion in the game adds anything of like major substance. I think the fact that they had to spend so much time working on him as a character probably took away from how cool Nawe could have been. And she already plays probably like with the coolest animations, the coolest parkour abilities and stuff that we've seen in a long time in the franchise. And she could have been even cooler if they had spent all their effort just on Nawe. And it's not because I have some weird hate boner for Yasuke. It's just that he is literally not an assassin. He doesn't have a hidden blade. He can't parkour. He can't use eagle vision. Like, he literally is not an assassin, but he's a protagonist in an Assassin's Creed game. Not in a cool, like, we're flipping it on its head like Hatham or like AC Rogue. It's not like that. It's just that he's just not an assassin, and he's just always there. So I think that there's things I would change, but on the whole, I think AC Shadows is definitely a step in the right direction. Specifically that it is stepping away from Valhalla and is going back to a focus on stealth. And while it's not perfect, I still think it's good. Is it enough to like magically save a multi-billion-dollar corporation? Time will tell. I mean, it really comes down to you know, sales and how many people actually convert from the reviews to purchasing it. Time will tell. My prediction has been for a long time, like months and months, that there's not much that Ubisoft can do to change their destiny, because I think they've just dug themselves into a hole, and it's the management that's primarily the problem. And that doesn't magically get fixed when you have a good game or a solid release. The people are still, investors especially, will still be upset with the management. You know, you can't just have one solid release and make investors forget about 5 years of mismanagement. It just doesn't work that way. So I still think that we'll see like some partner deal between Ubisoft and Tencent, some corporate shakeup in one way or another by probably the end of this year. But, you know, this is not, I think, the disaster that some hardcore Ubisoft haters were hoping for. You know, this is not the 5 out of 10 bomb that some people just assumed it would be. It's a good game. It's not perfect. There's things I would change, but it's a good game. And especially if you like what you hear about it, then I think you will enjoy it. There's some outlets that are giving it like perfect scores and are saying that it's the best AC game since Black Flag. And which is funny because this is not from the Black Flag team. That's particularly funny to me. But you know, there's other people that are giving it more of like 7, 8 out of 10 scores. Some people are giving it the 3 out of 5 stars and are just not clicking with it. But on the whole, it does seem like the consensus is that it's a good game. You know, for some people, it's even a great game. And for me, I think it's a good game. It's just got a few problems, and I think that they can sort through them in later, you know, DLCs and updates and things. But for what it is right now, I think it's a good game. Just please, if you take nothing else from this, crank the difficulty. Like, please crank the difficulty. You will thank me so much. Do not play this game on casual or on whatever the default difficulty is. Crank it. It will make it way better. People said the ending was terrible. What do you think? Terrible is a strong word. It's very anticlimactic. That's what I said in my review. It's pretty clear that they are leaving the door open for stuff they're going to do with expansions and stuff. So it just kind of is like building, and then it's like, oh, we're done. Oh, okay, cool. I guess I'll go do some side quests. It's not this like big, it's no Ghost of Tsushima ending. I'll just say that. It's no Ghost of Tsushima ending. But it's fine. It's just really anticlimactic for what you were expecting, because it's like building, and then it just kind of fizzles. See, the thing is, the economy's still pretty bad, so I'll probably wait for the game to go on sale. That doesn't seem worth it much to me, like KCD2. I mean, KCD2 is a masterpiece through and through, so I will never tell you not to buy KCD2. It's, oh baby, that's a real masterpiece through and through. So if you got to pick one, like obviously I'm going to say go for the masterpiece. And the sort of elephant in the room for Ubisoft has been for the last like 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is, that everybody knows it's going to go 50% off, 30% off, 40%, whatever it is, within like 3, 4, or 5 months. Everybody knows that. Like, let's not kid ourselves. So if you're like, it's looking like I could be intrigued, but you know, I think I'm gonna wait on the sidelines for a little bit and pop in when I can get it a little cheaper. There's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong at all. Totally fine. As someone who hasn't played Origins, should I just play that if I prefer older AC style games? Origins is, so how I would describe them, Origins is an open world, probably like an open world adventure game with a focus on gameplay dynamism, where like you can light your arrow, shoot it into the reeds and it lights them on fire, and you go over here and you know, you light your torch and you burn the cobwebs with the torch because the fire actually burns it. Things like that. It's just very dynamic. Odyssey is a narrative RPG that feels almost nothing like an Assassin's Creed game, but is really solid. And a lot of people absolutely love that game. But it definitely doesn't feel like an AC game. But as an open world RPG, it's actually pretty good, like fantasy RPG. Valhalla is like an MMO for single player players. I think it's way too easy, and it is the quintessential junk food game. Like, if you're willing to play only 10 hours, you can probably have a good time, or 20 hours, you can probably have a good time. But if you try to force yourself to play through that whole thing, you're going to be very burnt out by the end of it. And then Shadows is also its own thing. It plays very, very differently than that last trilogy. At least all those trilogies were kind of vaguely trying to follow the outline of open world adventure RPGs. That's kind of what they were doing. And some of them, you know, focus more on the narrative or gameplay dynamics or quantity. Shadows is a different thing entirely. To call this an RPG also, like Shadows, I really would not call it an RPG. To call Shadows an RPG is like calling Horizon an RPG. Like, it's not. Like, there are branching dialogue options and there are things that can change technically based on your decisions, but it's really not an RPG. And if you're going into Shadows hoping for like AC Odyssey RPG stuff, like, that's not what you're going to get. It's just not. And that's fine. Some of my favorite games of all time are not RPGs. It's okay if it's not an RPG, but I just want to be very clear. This is not an RPG. Like, not in the same way that you're probably thinking when you look at the AC franchise and you think of what like Odyssey was able to do. Beyond that, it's so having said that, should you just play Origins if you like older school Assassin's Creed games? Probably not. Probably Mirage. Mirage, I think you'll be happy with, because Mirage is like built to basically just play like an old school Assassin's Creed game. And that's why some people hate it, to be perfectly clear. Some people can't stand it because of that, because they're like, yeah, we're going to do trailing missions. Yeah, we're going to have this like really weirdly slow thing. But, you know, that's what it was for. It was built to be kind of a love letter to those older games. Even though a lot of those ideas are outdated now, that's precisely why they did it, because it's outdated. But for some people, like, for some people, one man's outdated is another man's nostalgia, you know? And that's why I think some people can really like Mirage. Even if other people are like, what is this crap? This was out of date 10 years ago, you know? It's like, yes, it was. Yeah, you're right. They were trying to do like an old school thing. Exactly. Let me catch up on this real quick. Come on, load. Oh, sorry, I'm trying to take deep breaths, but also not cough and hiccup at the same time, so bear with me. My lungs are not happy. Orc, thank you for the resub over on Twitch, my friend. Thank you. Let's see. Are the future segments lame as usual? How do I say this? If you, like me, hated the Layla segments in Valhalla and or I guess Valhalla, Odyssey, Origins, you know what I mean, you're probably going to be very, very happy with the way they handled it this time around. And that's what I'll say. So if you hated how they did the present day whatever stuff, like the last 3 games, you're probably gonna love what they did here. That's what I'm gonna say. Yeah, no spoilers, very, very vague. You sound really disappointed by Shadows. No, I'm thoroughly, it's way better than I was braced for. You know, I went into it being like, we'll see, they cut a lot of stuff. They cut a lot of stuff, and I'm not sure it was the right stuff. But after playing it, I'm actually like, okay. I think you cut too much, but I think we did, like, we're moving in the right direction. I'm glad to see what we're doing here. So if anything, I'm actually, it's actually the opposite. Sumaya, I think for that one, are there any black box missions for main targets? I think it depends on what you mean by black box missions, because some people have more strict definitions for what that is when it comes to like replayability or different tactics, routes, that type of thing. Like there's different routes for almost every single mission that you go on that you can choose to engage with, but it's like, this is no Hitman. No unique kills, I think. No, most of the big, like the big encounters for the main story, they are going to mostly end with like you stealthing your way, you know, taking a very particular route up to the top of the castle, whether that's with Yasuke or Nawe or whatever. If you want to climb on the outside, go through the inside, whatever, climb under the floors. But usually it's like for big narrative stuff, they have to have the cutscene, they have to have the dialogue, the exposition once you walk into the room. And so, yeah, I would not say that this is like unity in that approach.
Through Super Chat.
Thank you.
Man, I felt old in your last video when you said Black Flag came out 12 years ago. Can't wait to get the remake. Just getting back into gaming. Love your vids.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you. I'm sorry I made you feel old. Much love, my friend. 10 is very generous. Thank you. That's the thing, though. Is like AC Shadows is running in the modern Anvil engine, and the remake is supposed to be built in that same engine with the ability to share tech back and forth. So one of the things everybody kind of agrees on is that Shadows looks ridiculous. It just does. It's not a game you're going to be doing like 200 frames a second on, but that's okay if it looks this good. You know, I'm okay with the game being heavy to run if it looks heavy to run. If it's beautiful, okay, I'll settle for 90 frames. I don't need 200. I need 200 if it looks like garbage. It better run like very fast if we're dealing with that. But if it looks really, really good, okay, I understand that's going to be more complicated and heavy to run. But the idea that we're going to potentially get a Black Flag remake that looks like this, tell you what, I'm in for that. I'm in for that. You missed my super chat. I did not. I'm just working through the list. And if you donate 10, you get text to speech so I can respond to it immediately. And you can interrupt me and make my my ADHD go off. It's a whole thing. Luke flexing 4090 low key. He's good with 90. to be, oh God, it's starting. To be fair, I also tested this on my gaming laptop and on my ROG Ally, and the game actually runs pretty well on the ROG Ally. Like I'm actually kind of, I was not ready for that at all. It was like, I just was not expecting that. Granted, you have to turn on like FSR and like frame generation, which is what you would expect. It's a handheld like device. You're not going to be running it like your 4090, but I was actually pretty impressed with how it ran on handheld, which was just kind of like a cool thing to see. Yeah, they made the most of those delays. I'll tell you what. How's Enemy AI? It all comes down to what difficulty you play on. And again, I cannot stress enough. If you take nothing else from this stream, from anything I put out regarding AC Shadows, let it be this. If you play the game, you have to play it on expert difficulty for everything. It makes such a difference. I'm going to try to find a very specific clip here real quick to at least demonstrate kind of what I'm talking about. This isn't a great example, but I'll point to this. So in an instance like this, actually this isn't going to be that. I need one where I'm like on a rooftop. That's what I need. Almost. Ooh, this is close. Okay. So like here, how this works, I think it'll be easier if I can MS Paint this bitch. There we go. So in Shadows, the way it works is that, oh, that's weird. My camera like got weirdly cropped. In Shadows, the way it works is that the enemy AI dictates what they're capable of doing, okay? In addition to like sensitivities, reaction times, because you got to remember, like when you're making an AI system and you're trying to balance it, all you're really doing is telling like the engine, okay, if there's a guy right here, make this a little bigger. If there's a guy right here and he sees you, the player, like right here, all you're doing is telling, like on an easy difficulty, they don't notice you for like a 7-second timer or something, or only once you're within 10 feet. And so you can like gauge the sensitivities. If you crank all of it, it just means the second you enter this circle, you're spotted, alerted. If it's instantaneous, they can alert their friends. They immediately run off to sound the alarm, whatever it is. So in Shadows, the default difficulty basically separates everything into the levels you're on. So as you can see, this is one plane, if you think of it that way. Like this is one level of height that this guy would be standing on. This area up here is a different height level compared to this one. On the normal default difficulty, if you are standing up here as Nawe or Yasuke, this guy can't see you. His vision doesn't extend above here. So it's just like he's always looking straight ahead and he can't see above him. And this is, you know, nice for players that maybe are not great at stealth, because it means that if you climb up here, you know, and then you want to jump down and stealth assassinate him, you can, because he's not going to notice you above him. He's not going to hear your footsteps. He's not going to see you. So it makes it significantly easier. That's the default difficulty. But if you crank that difficulty up, if you crank that bitch, his vision becomes a cone, meaning he can see everything on this level, of course, when he's looking this direction, but he can also see up, and he can see all of this as well. So he can see Nawe, just like you would expect, you know? Because nothing's like more annoying than, okay, there's plenty that's more annoying, but you know, when there's like a guard standing here who's just like doing his patrol, and then you as the player are standing on like this rooftop, and clearly they should be able to see you. Clearly. I mean, it's a straight shot. It's, I don't know, like 80 feet away, 100 feet away. You're next to lamps. Like they should be able to see you. But on the default difficulty, their vision doesn't extend that way. So he could only see up to like here. But if you crank that, he can spot you. And it makes it so much more immersive. Not to mention that they then start to work together. They then will, like, this guard will run over until this guard, and then this guard will run over until that guard. And they'll all come rushing over. They'll work together to come at you. They'll go ring the bell that's over here so that they alert the guards in the rest of the castle, and the guards on the upper level will start, you know, peeking up and maybe shooting arrows down at you. It makes the game way way better. And so if you heard anybody, or if anybody had a review or something where they were saying stuff like, hey, AC Shadows, the stealth is too easy, the stealth is not dynamic, check to see if they increase the difficulty, because they told us when we like got review codes, they said, experiment with the difficulty, try it out, it makes a difference. Which the creative director I spoke to when I was in Quebec, he told me he plays the game on the higher difficulty for stealth. He's like, yeah, I just think it makes it a little more engaging. Obviously, we have to think of people who are not looking for a more difficult experience with the game. But he's like, yeah, I play it with the expert difficulty. One of my primary notes for AC Shadows is I think they should have a hardcore difficulty. I personally think they should. I think they should have it so if you're walking on the rooftops, it emits a much more sharp sound unless you're prone and crawling, and that sound should reverberate all the way through here so that, you know, you jump up, you're walking on those little tile steps. The guy that's standing down here should definitely hear that. As of right now, I think it's too forgiving. So if anything, like, I think a great addition to the game would be a hardcore stealth difficulty that just turns all the knobs up. I think that would be awesome. I think that'd be awesome. But again, if you take nothing else from this video or from this segment, whatever this ends up being, take this, that you should 1 bajillion% crank that difficulty. It makes one hell of a difference. It really, really does. And I'm glad that it actually can make a difference, because, you know, there's been plenty of examples of games where the AI sucks ass. And even when you crank the difficulty, it's like, it doesn't really change the AI. It doesn't really change anything from them. But I mean, in this case, it actually does, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, the game is gorgeous. The game is just crazy pretty. I mean, this is just a still shot from later in that same capture clip. There was apparently a group of monks that would wear these like basket things on their heads and play flutes. It was like a traveling thing. I Googled it because it was like so specific. I was like, is this a reference to something? But no, apparently it was a group of monks in Japan that would just very specifically do this. They were found and they're depicted in artwork as typically playing flutes next to bodies of water and rivers and stuff. I was like, oh, who knew? But it's just, it really is gorgeous. So somebody did do a little side-by-side. I think one of the things I want to see is the Digital Foundry video. I want to see what this looks like on a Series S without like ray tracing and stuff, because I'm guessing it doesn't look anywhere near as good. That's my guess, though. Wait, the game has authentic Japanese stuff? Well, actually, don't you know that Yasuke wasn't a real samurai? Oh, dude. Oh. I'm going to give myself the cough hiccups. I can't. Oh, man. Okay. Whew. Oh, okay. Let me continue catching up on these super chats. Thank you, everybody, for the very generous stuff. Thank you. Hey, dude, your desk looks awesome. Do you have another angle on this? Not currently. My other camera died. It really sucks. I don't know if you guys know what to do with 3 formerly very expensive cameras that now are just dead. Let me know. I found a place on from New York that said they could try to repair them, but I was like, I don't know if I want to spend if I want to ship off thousands of dollars worth of cameras. Granted, they're not worth thousands now. They're dead and busted. But it's like, I don't know if I want to ship those off to somebody I've never met in New York, you know? And I'd give them away, but they also, they don't work. They're just paperweights at this point. So I don't know what to do with them. Let's see. But yeah, thank you for the compliment on the desk. And if you ever want to do it, just Google IKEA countertop desk. That's all this is. It's not an actual desk. It's an IKEA island countertop that you put on top of some shelves. Saves you a ton of money, and it's way better than a standard desk, in my opinion. So that's all I'm saying. Know what I'm saying? Let's see. Eric, how is the modern day parallel story in Shadows? Is it any good? Better than the last 3 games? Continuation of the events of Valhalla? I don't know if I can say anything without just spoiling what they're doing this time around, but all I will say is if you did not like what they did the last 3 games, you will love what they're doing here. Make of that what you will. But yeah, I don't want to spoil what they're doing. Because it's pretty clear that they're setting it up for some of the expansions and stuff to answer most of those questions. That's my guess. Let's see. Purple Haze, thank you for the 5. I heard a rumor that Ubisoft was going to add co-op post-launch. If true, do you think that will work? Personally, for me, I liked it in Unity. I do have the sneaking suspicion that that's one of the reasons that Yasuke is here. It's also, I mean, people are like, oh, they're doing it for cultural reasons. The more I've played it, like, I think it's pretty clear. They mainly saw the success of Valhalla and they said a lot of people like the melee combat and just frankly don't even care about stealth gameplay in Assassin's Creed games. They don't care. They saw that with Odyssey. People were fine playing with no stealth, and then with Valhalla that made $1 billion. They're like, okay, clearly people don't care that much, so we have to have an option in the game. And so they just thought, oh, we could add co-op and we could add Yasuke to have like melee combat. So I think that they just tried to kill 2 birds with one stone. I don't think it works that great. I think Yasuke feels really out of place through and through the entire game, unfortunately. Because like there's multiple times, and I mentioned this in the review, but like you'll run up to somebody for a conversation, like for a cutscene or for a quest objective or something, and you start the conversation. You've been talking, like you've been exploring as Nawe for an hour, for 2 hours, 5 hours, whatever it is. And then you walk up to somebody, start talking, and then Yasuke just like walks in from the side, like he's been there the whole time. And it's like, what? What are you doing here? But nobody ever says that. It's just like, you were at the settlement. Why are you here? What are you doing? Because he shows up in random like side quests and random like companion quests and stuff. It just feels weird. And once you notice it, it gets really funny. Because like it's at random times where you're in the middle of nowhere. You're talking to somebody and then he just like walks up. Yeah, Jesus. Exactly. That's kind of what it's like. Yeah, I just don't think he works that well with the general flow of everything. Let's see. What else was I saying? But yeah, as for co-op, I have a sneaking suspicion that they're going to add co-op. I don't have any like cool insider knowledge. I think that it would not surprise me at all if one of maybe the expansions is a co-op expansion and you're meant to play it with friends. Like I wouldn't be surprised if that's what they're doing. Maybe it ends up being good. I don't know. Like, if it's a free update, awesome. Kind of like what, was it the Legends mode with Ghost of Tsushima? Like, I might play it for 20 minutes. It's not really my cup of tea, but who knows? Maybe it ends up working really well. Guess we'll find out. How's performance on PC? It looks gorgeous. No real bugs. The only bugs I encountered were noted as being fixed in the day 1 patch. So as far as I'm aware, out of the things I encountered, which was like an exposure light problem, that was fixed. And then there was also a thing where I would get a random fail state for killing civilians, even though I didn't kill civilians. That happened twice within like an hour and a half, but then it didn't happen again for the rest of the time I played the game. So I don't know what that was. I have no idea. And it was specifically during one gameplay session. So maybe when I turned off the game and rebooted it, it was fine and didn't happen again. I really have no idea. But again, I didn't see it anytime after that. It was just kind of a random weird thing. Let's see. Where was I? Let's see. Vivek, thank you for that super chat. Starfield is higher on Metacritic than Shadows, which is insane. So I don't trust reviews. Bethesda games are way worse by industry standard and are getting a pass by reviewers. And IMO BGS games should be called out. Metacritic, you just have to be cautious with, because Metacritic collects a plethora of reviews and review scores, but they also lump in, for example, like 5-star based reviews with the out of 10 scores. So for an outlet like IGN, 6 is bad. A 6 out of 10 is bad, but on a 5-star scale, 3 stars is actually like pretty good. That's like a C. It's a solid game. But when converted to the Metacritic scale, it comes out as 6 out of 10. So it doesn't retain, I think, the intention of the reviewer. So, which is why I think like the star system is just, it doesn't really work well with, it doesn't play nice with others. So you got to be cautious when you look at Metacritics and try to determine quality. Because the other thing is, look at the Dragon Age Veilguard Metacritic. They were very selective with reviewers. They only sent it to the people that they thought were going to give them good review scores. They were very, very careful and very intentional. And so it inflated the number. Did that magically make the game better? I don't think so. But they'll do that. They'll do that. And I don't necessarily blame them, because a lot of the time their bonuses are tied to Metacritic scores too. Like if the developers want a bonus at launch, they have to get the score to a certain level. There was the famous example of Fallout New Vegas that needed to hit a Metacritic score of, I think, was it 82? They missed it by 1. Maybe it was 85. Metacritic Fallout New Vegas. Yeah. The bonus was if they hit 85 on Metacritic, they would get their bonuses. They hit 84, so they didn't get bonuses. Sucks to suck. Yeah, that example's just sad. Yeah, dude, kinda. Close. Okay. But yeah, as for like Starfield versus all these Metacritics, the other thing to remember is that these games are, nothing is reviewed in a vacuum. Okay. There is a certain amount of privilege or bias that comes with being one studio, one publisher versus another. Rockstar, I think everybody, when they're reviewing a game, it anchors at 9 out of 10. And then if it's even more impressive than they were expecting, it goes up towards 10. And if it's underwhelming, it starts to go down towards 8. But that's where like their scoring in their head starts when they begin reviewing the game. Whereas I think for Ubisoft in the last handful of years, the anchor has fallen because the consistency has gotten really shaky. And so sometimes they'll do a really solid release, and then the next year they're releasing garbage. And it's like, I think it's just kind of a reality of what happens when when you put out a game to reviewers and outlets and stuff, media outlets, but you're also kind of a brand that nobody wants to be too close to, you know? What type of coffee am I drinking? A cortado. Yeah, cortado. It's just a bunch of like blonde espresso and then I think steamed milk. Something like that. It's specifically like the blonde espresso shots though. So it flows nice. Yeah, at least Bethesda is consistently terrible. Oh, man. Oh, you're trying to give me the hiccups. I mean, Bethesda also, though, the thing with Bethesda is that Starfield's weaknesses started to rear their ugly heads once you played a lot more of it. And I've only recently found out that a number of people and like individuals who reviewed Starfield hadn't actually like finished it. They like sprinted through the main story, which you can actually sprint through pretty quickly in Starfield, but they hadn't really played that much of the game when you look at it based on like average play times. And it was always once people started playing more and more of it that they started to get less and less interested and more burnt out, and that they started to not like it more and more. But it sort of explains why the scores might have been higher, because it's like, oh, they didn't play as much, so they liked it more, you know. But yeah, it's another Valhalla issue too, tell you what. Let's see. Luke, have you seen the question about the invisible walls during missions? Hold on. I had to leave for a minute, so unsure if it's been answered. Thank you for the follow-up. The invisible walls during missions, occasionally there are walls that go up for like boss fights, for, you know, like there was one where it's one of the targets, like one of the main targets, and you kind of clear out his castle, you chase him, he goes to another castle, you chase him there. You can either stealth your way in or just fight your way through with Yasuke. But once you finally have a final confrontation, there's like a big boss fight with him. And when the boss fight hits, invisible walls go up. If you get close to them, it shows like white glittery stuff. And that type of thing I'm okay with, because it's like, yeah, it's a boss fight. Like, we're not going to let you just get up, run to the other side of the fence, go prone in some bushes, wait for it to clear. And then it's like, oh, they don't know where I am. And then you stealth back up to the top of it and jump down and try to assassinate him that way and just cheese it. I get that thematically, sometimes you just want to get the player to do something. And I can respect that. Not to mention, like, Ubisoft has a built-in excuse with that type of thing. These are like reconstructed memories in the Animus. It's like genetic memory. Just be like, that's not how Nawe did it. Nawe didn't run away and come back later. She fought, so that's what you're going to do. Is it a hard wall? It's a hard wall. Yeah. But I will say, in all the time I played the game, I think I can only really think of 2 times that I actually ran into literally like an invisible wall. And both times I was like, yeah, okay, fair enough. And I went and did it the way that was more reasonable. So I think it's really not that jarring. I was worried about that at the preview event, because in that mission there were some big invisible walls. But honestly, like in the final version of the game, it's like it's not really an issue as far as I'm concerned. Let's see. Let me continue catching up on these. Kino Man Sky, think for that one. Does AC Shadows is dry like Origins could be? Rat indeed. Does ACS is dry like Origins? I'm not sure if that's an Egypt joke with like the desert, or if you mean the writing is dry. I'm not really sure. What I will say is the writing is much more dry than like Odyssey. Odyssey, there are numerous times when you will actually like chuckle and laugh, where you'll actually laugh. Let me see if I can find it. Like the Supidio questline.
At last! Did you find the shield?
I did. Now you can protect yourself from the prophecy.
So, you found the thief?
Oh yes, cut her in half. She won't steal anything from anyone ever again.
And what about the blacksmith?
Oh, he's very much alive. We did things in the back of his workshop that would make Aphrodite blush.
You didn't.
This is awful.
Mater? Pater, what's wrong? You're safe. The
Just
prophecy's
wait.
broken.
Actually, there's something we've been meaning to tell you. Supidio, you were adopted.
What?
A young couple brought you to us. They knew we'd give you a better home. That sword and shield is your inheritance from them.
Wait, so the thief and the blacksmith?
Are Supidio's birth parents. You killed his mater and fucked his pater.
But the prophecy said Pater would scream to the gods in agony.
He screamed, but not in agony.
Ah! You killed Mater and had sex with Pater.
Supidio, I had no idea.
Now that's a side quest, dude. That's a side quest, okay? Like, it's so crazy. But there's tons of moments like that in Odyssey, which are just ridiculous, you know, and that's an RPG through and through. So if you don't want to have sex with Pater, you don't have to. And then this plays out differently. If you don't, you know, it's up to you. But there were quests like this all over the place in Odyssey. But it turns out there was a lady that was working at Ubisoft Quebec, who was in charge of all the writing and stuff. If someone in chat knows her name, let me know. Let me see if I can find it. Melissa McCobry? McCobry? Is this her? Yeah, Jonathan Dumas also wrote Odyssey. She was the same one as she was the same one that or Jonathan wrote Shadows as well. But yeah, Mel McCobry, Canadian game developer. But Mel was like apparently the one really behind AC Odyssey's branching narratives and like consequence and role-playing stuff and that sort of like sillier tone. Has been working at Cloud for 5 years, 6 months as narrative director on, what is Cloud Chamber doing? Is it announced yet? I don't think it's announced yet. Huh. Well, I guess we'll find out. But as a result, like when the person responsible for something you probably loved in a game or you kind of loved in a game leaves, you got to be aware that that's going to have an effect. And so when Mel left, it kind of led to this shift within Quebec where now the person that was like at the core of the RPG push was gone. Which is, I think, why Shadows doesn't have this tone and it doesn't have this type of consequence in the dialogue and role play and stuff. Which, again, like, it doesn't mean that it's a bad game. I just happen to really like Odyssey for how ridiculous and outrageous it could be. Again, not a great Assassin's Creed game, but as like a fantasy RPG in ancient Greece, it's a really good time. It's a good time. But when we talk about how dry the dialogue is and the writing is and stuff, if Odyssey is an ocean, Shadows is a desert. I mean, it's way, way more serious. There are some moments of levity, some quest lines that are a little sillier, but in general, it's not anywhere near as good as in my opinion, Odyssey was. I don't think it strikes that same fun tone, which some people I'm sure are gonna love, but your review emphasized it took a dozen hours or so to get used to AC Shadows. That's double the runtime of Titanfall 2. I see that as a pretty big negative. Just curious on your thoughts. Yeah, for some people that's going to be a total turnoff, which I think is totally fine, to be perfectly clear. That's why I told you guys about that in the review. I don't want to pretend like from the moment I booted it up, I loved it so much. It wasn't like KCD 2. For KCD 2, for me, immediately I was like, oh, we're back. Here we go. For AC Shadows, it took me a while. To be perfectly fair, I play a lot of Assassin's Creed games. I know these games pretty well. I mean, I made it like a 3-hour critique of Valhalla. So like, I know these games pretty well. And as a result, it takes me more time to get out of the groove of one game moving to the next. Because I'm more, I think, familiar than the average person probably would be. So, you know, if your last AC game, for example, was Valhalla, but you played it 5 years ago, it's not going to take you 12 hours to get acclimated to this, you know. The only reason that it's taking me longer to acclimate is because I've been playing other games intermittently. I'll go back to them for reviews or for critiques or for this or for that. So for me, it might take longer to acclimate than a player who, you know, their last game was, you know, Origins or Syndicate or something. So for me, it was 12 hours. For you, it might be 30 minutes. Who knows? But if that's a turnoff, I don't blame you. But that's why I told you, so you can at least kind of make your choice based on that, if that makes sense. How good at video games would you say you are? Not very good. It also, I mean, it honestly depends on the game. Tell you what, fighting games, not good. not good. But when I get really into a game, I usually go deep. you know, especially with RPGs or stuff that have like more robust builds and things you can do, whether it's Monster Hunter or something like that. I'll go deep and then I'll get better at them and I'll get good at them as I go on, but I'm no pro gamer, I'll tell you what. Yeah, I am actually one of the top sorry. I got to keep a straight face for this, okay? I have to pull this up to prove, because you guys aren't going to believe me when I tell you this, but that's why I'm going to pull it up, because I need to show you. Yeah, I mean, in all out of all history, I am actually one of the top 700 players in the world in Concord. Like all time, I'm in the top. Right now, I'm probably like top 3. I would show you my rank, but the servers are down. Must be maintenance or something like that. Yeah. You know, maybe I'll do some guides. Maybe we'll do some guide videos soon, or you know, I can we'll get there. Can't argue against that. You're damn right. Oh man. Nobody can beat me. Yeah, I'm that good, man. Built different. Nick, thank you for the 10 again. Thank you for that. Yeah, Black Flag remake probably later this year. I really do think, like, now that Shadows is going to be out and they can kind of put that headache behind them, I really do think if they come out in June and they can just reveal a Black Flag remake that is beautiful and of course retains the original feel of the game and all that, I think that will be such a slam dunk for them. It's a no-brainer. People love Black Flag, and if they can actually do like a full remake that's good and make it look like Shadows, easy peasy. But I do think you're right, Eric, that they got to be careful. Yeah, because if they end up doing something stupid like, we didn't want to offend PETA, so we cut all of the whaling and we cut all of the, you know, if they start doing that type of thing, then I'm much less confident. But time will tell. I swear to God, if they cut the whaling, it's like, we kill so many thousands of people in this game. That's okay. Killing the people is fine. But God forbid you like spear a whale. You know? It's a video game. Okay? What are we doing? It's a video game. If this was something where like, hey, as a press event, Ubisoft paid to bring creators out whaling in real life, then we'd have a problem. That I agree, that would be a problem. But it's a video game. You can keep it in the video game. It's okay. Okay? It's okay. Can you imagine they get like IShowSpeed and Kai Cenat to go whaling to promote the remake? Honestly, it would go viral. I'll give them that. It would go viral. It really would. That, you know what? Call me Ubisoft. I'll consult on your marketing plans from now on. Oh, man. Can you imagine if they did that? Oh, man. What if the whale was a big meanie who smells? What if that's how they get around it? They're like, we knew that if we included the whaling again, we'd like tick off some of the more like PETA friendly factions in the gaming industry. So all of the whales, for purposes of whaling, all of the whales in Black Flag are Nazis. Problem solved. They're all Nazi whales. They have little meetings. They're plotting the overthrow of the local government. Problem solved. Nobody can complain. Wouldn't that be easy? Again, hire me, Ubisoft. Like, you could give them little mustaches as they swim through the water. Boom. Nobody can be upset. Nobody can be upset. We still get to whale, and you still get to feel good about yourself. Problem solved. We're there. Oh, man. Give them machine guns? Oh, that could work. That could work. Let's see. Hold on. I gotta continue catching up or I'll never get through these. Jimothy, thank you for the 5. Hello, good sir. Would you recommend Shadows for someone who has never played an AC game but really loved Ghost of Tsushima? Honestly, it might be interesting for you to try it after playing Tsushima, because it plays much more like Tsushima than it does Valhalla. It's way more slow, way more methodical. So you might actually really like it. I'd say it's worth checking out, especially if you look at the trailers and stuff and you think that it looks interesting and compelling. It might be worth a try. I don't think it's as good as Tsushima's like combat system and the narrative there, but I think if you're looking for something to kind of scratch that itch, it could be worth checking out. Caleb, thank you for the 5. Got 40 minutes into review and just hopped on stream, but do the missions, castles, bases have the invisible walls it looked like in the demo? Oh, I see. This was the comment you asked me to go back to. Yeah, I think there's only like 2 instances in the entirety of my playtime that I can think of when I ran into those walls. So they probably are there a lot, but I never noticed them, which I guess problem solved. You know, if I don't notice the invisible walls because they're invisible, cool. They were keeping me engaged elsewhere, so I didn't feel the need to go run against them. Let's see. I'm so hyped for Shadows Codex entries. Lol. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of them, dude. And some of them are tied to the Animus Hub. Texylvanian? Thank you for the 5. Hey, Luke, I just want to hear your opinion on the Battlefield 6 pre-alpha footage leaks. Also, do you think these are intentional on EA's part or not? I mean, even if EA is not the one releasing the footage, they knew this was going to happen. So I don't think it's like, I don't think any of this is a surprise. Truly. Like, I don't think any of it is a surprise. They knew doing public like tests, this is going to leak. It just is. Like, this is not a surprise. So sort of it's intentional on their part. You know, they knew that this was going to happen. That being said, the footage I thought looked really promising. But as with most things EA, wait until the actual game is out. Because last time was so hilariously mismanaged and released that I'm shocked they're like the Battlefield franchise even exists right now. They screwed it up so bad last time. So, you know, they got to do some convincing. But what that footage looked like, if I were to hypothetically have seen it, looked pretty good. Cured Madness, thank you for the 5. Are they doing something stupid like they did in Unity where you are the character in the modern day? No, not like Unity, not like Black Flag, nothing like that. No. Yeah. Don't worry. Excuse me. Ed Wedgie, thank you for the 5. I know Rockstar's management is annoying, but I feel like they only put out games that are benchmarks for the industry. It's also because they are willing to spend $2 billion on each release. Shadows, by most estimates, probably cost Ubisoft around 350 to 450 million. Marketing could be included in that, maybe not. Like, it's hard to say. When all is said and done, though, the average expected price is probably around 400 million for the game. It's a massive, massive project and massive ordeal. And they spend a lot on promotion and marketing. But I you know, even that, you got to think, make 5 of these and you have GTA 6's budget. That's insane. So you would hope that spending 5 AC Shadows or 5 Concords, you know, you would hope that you would have an industry leading game. But very, very few companies can justify spending that much on a game, because it's kind of like this chicken and the egg thing. It's like, we can't spend $2 billion on a game because we won't recoup that because not enough people will buy it. But people won't buy that because they don't think of our games as being the quality of a $2 billion game. But if we made a $2 billion game, then our quality would be there, but we aren't sure if people will buy it to that extent and to that level. So it just creates this kind of like standoff where nobody really wants to get to that point. And the only reason Rockstar is really able to do it is because of the ridiculous success that like GTA 5, GTA 4, GTA Online, of course, Red Dead, those games were all so freakishly successful that it became clear people are going to buy them, and they're going to buy them at full price. And this is like the bigger problem for Ubisoft that I honestly don't know how they fix it. It's the stereotypical thing that Ubisoft games go on sale 50% off 3 months after launch. Everybody knows it's going to happen. So even if you think Shadows looks really good, I'm sure there's lots of people who are like, yeah, I'm going to wait till June. And I don't blame them. $70 is a lot of money. And if you constantly put your game on sale like that, people will learn to just wait until it's on sale, you know? The only way I think to deal with it is probably to just pull a Nintendo and never, ever put your games on sale, which sucks for the consumer because then you never get games on sale. But then at least, you know, when you're seeing like, oh, the new Mario dropped or the new Zelda, whatever it is, you're like, oh, well, I mean, I could buy it today or I could just wait 6 months and buy it at the same price. Might as well just get it now while I have the cash. It's that difference in thought process between like a Nintendo and a Ubisoft that I think has hurt Ubisoft a lot, but it's their own problem. I mean, it's because they keep putting their stuff on deep sale. Now, maybe it is the fact they've done the math and for them, putting it on sale actually generates more money than if they just kept it high and set the expectation there. I don't know. But they keep doing it. They've been doing it for years. So they must see something we don't. But I've spoken to people pretty high up in Ubisoft, some people even from like Paris, who have also expressed frustration over the fact that they put it on sale within 6 months, 3 months. You know, they're like, I don't know why we do that. But it comes from higher up. It's not my call, but I don't know why we do that because people will just wait to get it on discount. And I don't blame them, you know, because again, you got to remember all the Ubisoft employees, they're gamers too. They're like, yeah, I don't know what we're doing. Why are we putting it on sale 3 months after launch? Like, why are we doing that? Of course, people will just wait. Why wouldn't they? Like, these games are expensive as hell. Like, yeah. Oh. Anyway, where was I? Vivek, thank you for that super chat. BGS can't even update their own games in a good way like Fallout 4. Reviewers are going to be fair, but people like Maddie ignore bugs and problems but criticize Ubisoft. I mean, at this point, I think the fascinating thing with Ubisoft or with BGS is that there really are not many defenders anymore. In the lead up to Starfield, there was a lot of like cope, I think. And then right after it came out, there was a lot of cope. But now, especially after Shattered Space, who are the Starfield stands out there? There's one guy on X that like still comments anytime I mention anything related to Starfield, which is kind of funny. But I think he's the last dude. There will be cope for Elder Scrolls 6. Yeah. Like, it's fine if you like Starfield. Totally fine. What we're saying is that clearly the quality bar has at least not risen since Fallout 4. I would argue it's dropped. And they're not putting out anywhere near as much stuff as they did a decade ago, despite being a team of like 4 times the size, which screams management issues. It screams management issues. And management issues don't get fixed by rolling your eyes. It just doesn't. It doesn't. What we're doing, like, why do you think I say all the time that, like, yeah, I think Ubisoft will continue having problems until the CEO is booted out, until they change management? You know what I heard? I heard from a Ubisoft employee that there was some presentation that went on where they were talking about, like, the reception of Star Wars Outlaws, reception towards Avatar, some of their recent games. And apparently Like in this like presentation to the CEO, they had a slide that had my face on it, where they were talking about YouTubers that have been like troublesome and like frustrating. Troublesome's a strong word, but like that were not pleased with how they were doing things and that they wanted to win over somehow. They're like, how do we win over people like Luke, people like this YouTuber, that YouTuber? And it shows that, like, you know, if we wanted to glaze them, we could. And yet I still like openly say, yeah, I think they should be fired. Yeah, I think we could probably get rid of them because it's true. And the hope is that maybe some new leadership comes in and fixes the problems. That's the hope. That's the hope. But if I was just trying to like glaze them to be in their good graces or something, I'd just be like, well, I think Yves Guillemot is just really misunderstood. I'm like, no, he's been in charge for 20 years. If things keep getting worse, you can only really point to the one guy. Yeah. Luke made the PowerPoint of heretics. Yeah. Well, this is the other thing is that you got to remember, if our reviews get seen by 250,000 people, or like Skill Up gets seen by, you know, his review gets seen by 1 million people for Dragon Age, the CEO talked about that. Andrew Wilson, you better believe Andrew Wilson was like, what did that Australian say? They talked about it. I'll bet you $1 bajillion, okay? $1 bajillion, because it makes a difference. How many millions of dollars of lost sales do you think SkillUp caused them? Millions and millions of dollars. So you better believe they're having meetings. Like, how do we make SkillUp like us? How do we make SkillUp, like, how do we make a game that he will like and tell his followers to buy? You know, that those conversations are happening. So when you have a platform like I do, or Maddie or Jor or SkillUp, it's important to call things like they are, because these people do listen. Like it maybe they don't act on what they hear, but the messages do get up the ladder. They do eventually land up there, and that's why you gotta just be real. You know, for a company like BGS, glazing them and patting them on the heads, be like, I know Starfield didn't like come together perfectly, but like you tried your best and we're so proud of you. That doesn't help anything. That will not lead to them making better games. It will not lead to them making a better product for the consumer. It's just going to allow them to continue doing what they're doing. But if you can hold their feet to the fire, if you can hold them accountable, tell them what it is, it will get to them. And if enough people are doing it, eventually, hopefully, they'll act on it, you know? Hopefully. But at the same time, I do want to give like Ubisoft credit in that instance, because I know that they've had conversations about like me, and I mean, I've been very open. I think I called AC Valhalla a travesty of open world design. Really didn't like it. Really, I mean, I made a 3-hour video on it. Really didn't like it. It's one of the few things people who are in that like AC bubble know about me, is that, oh, Luke, the guy that really hates Valhalla, you know? And yet they still will engage, and they'll still like send a review code and stuff, because their approach is not to like try to ignore. It seems their approach is to try and win you over, which I think is certainly the right strategy. Yeah, a travesty of open world design. Yeah, dude. With the skill tree bush. The skill bush. Man. SkillUp rips on Android. I thought I misread it, but no, it is Android Wilson. Since the olden days of Layman Gaming, when he and his brother would dedicate at least 10 minutes a week during the Wilson bot, on the Wilson bot. That's funny. I didn't know that. But yeah, I mean, you better believe. I think once you get to the point of like 500,000 subs and your videos, your reviews specifically, are being seen over 100,000 times, like you're on their list that they're paying attention to. I mean, they're keeping an eye on it. For sure. Wheel of Time, thank you for the membership. Thank you. Let me continue catching up on these real quick. Trash Panda Cult, thank you for the resub, my friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's see. I read that one. A Cursed Talk, thing for the 5. Have you ever played any of the Yakuza games? Started Like a Dragon last night and already love how goofy and also serious it can be at the same time. Yeah, dude, the Yakuza games are crazy. Infinite Wealth is outrageous. I always get the name like shuffled around. Yakuza or like a Dragon, Yakuza Pirate in Hawaii, I think. That one also is just totally outrageous. It's like, again, far from a perfect game. It's like it's it's not going to be winning any Game of the Year awards, but it's just outrageous and stupid and silly. And it's a good time. It is a good time. That's the thing though. It's like Yakuza is not trying to be like the artsy masterpiece. And that's part of what makes it so fun, is that it's just outrageous. They're not trying to do the like Naughty Dog, let's be very careful and brooding. They're not doing that. That's not what they're interested in, and it's kind of refreshing to play a game like that. Let's see. Arik, thank you for that one. Luke, is being dry writing bad or boring? Dry, what I think of as dry is just very monotone, one note. It's like if you are watching a movie that's just super serious and there's no real moments of levity. The actual plot could be really interesting, but it's dry if there's not a lot of variability in the scenes or set pieces or art direction. It can just come off as very, very dry. You need to spruce up the energy. You need to play with it a little bit. You just need to shake it up, Need to shake it up. You can have serious moments, but like it was also one of the, like for example, some of the individual dialogue in The Last of Us Part 2 is really dry, especially like the Abby sections. How they got around it was by having big set pieces and moments of chaos and violence to break it up so that it doesn't come off as dry. So they can kind of make it not just a steady drone, they really shake it up. That's a great question, Avery. What would moist writing be? Yakuza. Yakuza is moist writing. Through and through, lock it in. I do declare. Yeah. Kind of the opposite problem. It goes maybe too far the other way sometimes. Oh man. Okay, hold on. Where am I? Let's see. Bender the Offender, thank you for the 5. Ubisoft cut the tailing missions in half and my life is yours. That's a good question. Okay. One's in the chats if you think Ubisoft should trim the tailing missions in the Black Flag remake. Trim or cut, okay? 2, if you think they should leave them as is. Because here's the thing. While you guys are doing that, I think there's a risk if they trim them that you're going to get some purists that are like, no, they've messed with the masterpiece. But I'm just telling you guys, some of those trailing missions are really long. They're really slow. You might be like, oh God, we used to put up with this. I do accept multiple entries. Yeah. Does this count as engagement farming? Oh man. Yeah. They need to trim the real world sections. That one's tougher to do because there are certain like achievements, collectibles and stuff that are tied to the real world stuff. I do agree if I were remaking, like if I were making Black Flag over from scratch, I'd probably change that, but I'm not sure you can do a Black Flag remake and cut that out. You're never going to please everybody. I agree. I just think what's really fascinating, and I encourage you to maybe go back and just try an hour or 2 of Black Flag again if you have it, because you'll go back to it and you're going to be like, huh, this was like Game of the Year contend. Like this was what many people consider to be one of the best games Ubisoft ever has made. And there are certain design elements where you're just like, that would get blown apart today. Like the tailing missions, just being like, what are we doing? what are we doing? And they'll feel very, very weird, and it'll feel very jarring. But it's a product of its time, you know? It's a product of its time. So with remakes, I'm always conflicted on what you retain from the olden days and what you refresh, you know? Add more side quests that relate to the Isu present day stuff and cut the present day stuff just because it's boring. They could do they could do a cool thing with something they did in Shadows where they could, I think they could come up with a reason to get rid of all of the modern day stuff, and it would make sense with their new kind of plot point. But time will tell what they're doing with that. Ed Wedgie, thank you for the 5. Almost caught up, guys. Thank you for that. When games get experimental, not when guys get experimental. When games get experimental with sequels, they get dumped on like DS2 and AC3. But I feel like those concepts are later used in better games. Yeah, well, and it's also, I think sometimes the ambition can outstrip the capabilities of the team. And I think that's an example for like AC3. It's so clear they wanted to do this big seamless open world between the cities and then the forests of the, you know, of the Eastern United States. And they wanted to just unify it all. They wanted to have this like this ship system where you could deliver cargo between ports, you know, and that would eventually be a thing with like Black Flag, where you can add it to your fleet, add ships to your fleet. So there were a lot of ideas they experimented with in AC3 that they just couldn't get working. But then they did it in Black Flag, and they would do it in later games as well. And so I always think that those games that are sequels to really well-established franchises that are just really wacky and weird, you know, and just feel off, a lot of the time it's because they just couldn't get their ambitious ideas working. And so it just kind of stumbled out the gate. And I think that was the, you know, Dark Souls 2, AC3. I think that's a really good example. What's another example? Red Faction 2, that's a throwback. You remember that? Red Faction 2 felt so weird compared to the first game. It was like, what are we doing? Like, what is this crap? Excuse me. Oh. You do? Yeah, that's a deep cut, dude. Because especially Red Faction 1... moving to Red Faction 2, Red Faction 2 feels like a totally different franchise. It's like a totally different thing. But it's not bad. It's just totally different, you know? It's very, very different. But then eventually, you know, they build on top of that for like Red Faction Guerrilla and then Armageddon, which everybody forgot about. Let's see. Wheel of Time, again, thank you for the membership. Mason, thank you for that membership. If you could play one AC game again for the first time, what are you picking? Thanks for the great videos. Hope you're well. Probably AC Origins, because I'm such a crazy Ancient Egypt fan. To be able to like re-explore the pyramids for the first time. Yeah. Like for some people, Hogwarts Legacy was the dream come true because it let them explore Hogwarts Castle for the first time. For me, my Hogwarts Legacy was AC Origins. Being able to explore ancient Egypt, nothing quite like it. A close second would be AC2, because I love AC2. I mean, that game is like nostalgia on crack and meth for me. It's just, I hear the music and I get emotional. It's just, what a deep cut, man. Oh, it gets me to my soul, to my core. Oh. Oh, are you Indiana Jones? I wish, dude. I just loved battling the Pope. I mean, who wouldn't? Is the Pope, this is going to make me look totally out of touch with reality. Is the Pope still alive? Wasn't he like on death's door a week ago? Yeah, he's been hospitalized. First photos since he was hospitalized. Yeah, so he's still kicking. It's one of those things where I was like, I could have sworn that he was not doing well. I think they said he was in serious condition for like weeks on end. It's crazy. Yeah, he was hospitalized 31 days ago. Jeez, dude. Golly. I'm sorry that we mentioned beating up the Pope and then I pulled up the actual Pope. Maybe that was insensitive, but I was curious. Hadn't heard from him. He hasn't been responding to my texts. Karam, thank you for the sub over on Prime, my friend. Thank you. On Twitch, thank you. Let's see. He had a double pneumonia and a touch of kidney failure. Jeez, yeah, maybe he does have the apple of Eden. That's not easy to come back from. Jesus. Man. Let's see. Jay Moore, thank you for the 5. I hope this remake lights the fire for more third-person pirate games. Dude, I hope. People are like, you can't root for Ubisoft stuff, otherwise you're a simp. Let me just say, I will root for whatever I damn well want to root for. And what I'm going to root for is the Black Flag remake, because if that ends up being good, it could mean more pirate games. There's also rumors of like a Pirates of the Caribbean reboot sort of thing where they're bringing Johnny Depp back, which would be amazing. And if this kickstarts like a new renaissance of pirate games, I'm here for it. And the Black Flag remake, if it does really well, could help that start. So I want my pirate games. I'm a root for the Black Flag remake. If it sucks ass, I will be way more upset than the average person. For most people, they'll be like, oh, yeah, the Black Flag remake didn't do too great. Oh, well, I'll just go play the original. For me, it'll be devastating. Because I want it to be good. I need more pirate stuff. Need it in my life. Need it in my life. Okay, that's funny. Oh, God. Man, I thought it would be a 2-hour review with 1 hour of you bitching about Starfield. Okay, that's funny. That's funny. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That's funny. Oh, man. Oh. Sorry. Okay, where was I? Let's see. Cured Madness, thank you for the 2. Missed the old AC combat. Had so much more style. It was basically glowing with style. I will give you that. The old style was what was called a paired animation combat system. And so basically, like in really simple terms, it was a rock, paper, scissors combat system where when the conditions were met properly and you would win the exchange, X animation would play out. And so it wasn't as free form and tight as what you feel now. Like now you press the R1 button, you swing the weapon, you make contact. If you hit the hitbox, it deals damage and it reflects on the health bar, right? After it does the armor calculations and all that. But with the paired animation system, it was like, oh, they're coming to attack. I press B to parry. And then you can like set the controller down for a solid 3 seconds while it does the animations and stuff. And it made it so there were some really cool animations that would play out when you were fighting people with like backflips and like special finishers and stuff that were really crazy. Like just go back and look at some of the finishers for AC Syndicate. Some of those finishers were insane. AC Syndicate finishers. Oh, that was loud. That was loud. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, some of these finishers were insane. But it's because once you met those conditions and you did the parry or you do the finisher move once their health is low enough, it would just pair the characters and it would deal the damage. I know I just deafened multiple people. I'm so sorry. How was I supposed to know he was going to have the volume on 1,000? But like, this is something you just don't really get nowadays because the combat systems just don't work this way. They're not about paired animations. They're about hitboxes. Oh, I wonder if there is a way to, oh God, dude, you see that? Just think of like the dynamic stuff they had to program for, like, if the NPC is close to a ledge, Eevee can identify that ledge, shove the dagger into their hand to hold it, and then flip them around and do that. Man, where's the blood? You sicko. You sicko.
That's most definitely what's up.
No, Josh, it's not what's up. Sicko. Sicko. Now, a lot of these older games, they didn't have the same blood effects we think of today. There's also, this is something I only really learned a lot about when I went to Quebec for AC Shadows, because I asked them, is there enemy detection of like severed heads, limbs, or blood? Because like you can kill people in Shadows, then leaves a puddle of blood, you pick up the body, you move the body and hide it in bushes or something. And so I asked, like, can enemies find the blood puddle and react to it? And he said, we experimented with it, we looked at it, but we couldn't do it because we have to have gore like toggles and settings. And it's like, oh, and so we talked about it, me and the gameplay designer, for a minute, and he was basically like, yeah, across the globe there are certain countries that do not allow for like excessive gore unless it's a specific rating, but if it's a specific rating it can't be sold in certain stores. Think of like the you know, adults only rating. If you hit an adults only rating, you're not going to be for sale in Walmart or in you know, Target or Best Buy. They're just not going to sell your game. And so in certain countries, especially in Europe, and I think Australia has problems with this too, they have to have toggles and settings to turn that off or have it off by default in the menus and stuff. And so for them to build the system out to have like enemy AI detecting blood puddles for certain countries and not others, it just wouldn't really make sense. So they ended up just not doing it, which it makes sense. But yeah, some of these finishers, dude, were brutal. Absolutely crazy. But at the time, back in 2015, when this game came out, people complained about the combat system. So it is glowing with style, but you know, with our modern perspective, we might look back on it and be like, wow, this looks so smooth. At the time, people were just complaining about it, so they changed it with AC Origins 2 years later. It's still weird to me to think that Origins was only 2 years later. Like, that really is not that much time between the two games, but it was a huge leap. It's crazy. Dude, some of these finishers are just brutal. Jesus. Foolishness. America has the most bloody puddles. Yeah, certain parts of America. Yeah. Number one. We the best music. Oh man. Where am I? Samaya, think for that one. Give me Ezio Trilogy Remake, Ubisoft, name your price. Dude, this is why I said in that Black Flag video, I was like, they are leaving so much money on the table by not capitalizing on nostalgia. There's so many people that love old school AC games. Remake them with modern graphics and control schemes and stuff. People will throw money at you, just like they've been throwing money at Capcom with Resident Evil stuff. Why not do it yourself? Got a little belly peeking out. Why not do it yourself? You could. You know, nostalgia bait. Exactly. You know why they call it nostalgia bait? Because we're stupid fishes and we keep nibbling at it. Hate to be that guy, but it works. People are like, no, it's lazy. It's lazy. As they're reaching in their pocket to give the money over to the cashier. It's like, yeah, technically, yeah, it's member berries, but it works. People are like, I'm upset about this. Do you take American Express? And so, like, of course they're going to keep doing it, you know? Because we may complain about it. But we want to give them money because we want a member. Oh, I remember AC2. I remember. Do you remember? Oh, I remember. We all just, at the end of the day, want to remember. Tell you what. Concord remake. Like, this time we figured it out. Oh man. Oh man. There's also a ton of people who never played them that would buy them. Yeah, I mean, I've had people that have said, I'm interested in AC2, but I see the graphics and I just don't know if I can do it. And I'm like, you're missing out. Heresy. But anyway, I gotta keep my emotions in check. Junior Jackson, thank you for the membership, my friend. Thank you. Thank you to all of the new members. Welcome. Roberto, thank you for that. Super chat. Cloud Chamber Games, where Mel works, are working on the next BioShock game. Oh, that's them. Oh. So Mel, who was responsible for what I thought was really impressive RPG stuff in Odyssey, is now working on the next BioShock game. And Mel's whole thing was pushing for character, like, choice and consequence with, like, branching options. Huh. Interesting. Thank you for letting me know, Roberto. Thank you. That's very interesting. I'll have to do more digging. Delta, thank you for the membership. Or not the membership, the sub over on Prime. The Porsche had it coming, to be fair. Oh, man. Yeah, dude, if you ever want to go down a crazy rabbit hole, one of my history teachers in high school, he was like a hardcore Catholic, but he was one of those Catholics that was pissed with the modern direction of the Catholic Church. So he's like really bitter. And he taught us all some of the stories of like the Borgia era popes and some of the insanity that would go on there. The stories of some of the popes. What was the name? Hold on. Because I have to look this up, otherwise you won't believe me. You're going to be like, Luke, you're making that up. Let me see if I can find it. I wrote like a whole paper on him. Alexander the Sixth, Pope Alexander the Sixth, born Rodrigo Borgia, reigned from 1492 to 1503, and is infamously linked to the Banquet of Chestnuts. This is going to be graphic, okay? I just Googled the picture of it, and oops. Oops. But basically, this was a real thing. It was held at the Papal Palace in Rome, okay, in 1501. Halloween 9, 1501. And yeah, basically, they just threw like a crazy party with women of the night and courtesans who danced after dinner with attendants and others who were present, and stripped all of it. And then after dinner, the candelabra with the burning candles were taken off the tables and placed on the floor, and chestnuts were strewn all around. And then they had to pick up the chestnuts, the courtesans, and they had to pick them up in creative ways, not using their hands. This guy was the Pope, and he was throwing parties like this, full-on Diddy parties, okay? Crazy. But a lot of people don't realize this. Like, this was a thing that happened in the Papal Palace, and everybody knows about it, but we just are supposed to be like, whatever. It's crazy, dude. But you're not going to see that in AC. That maybe they were like, yeah, we were going to do a realistic depiction of that party, but we realized it didn't feel quite right. It's crazy, dude. It was crazy.
Lisa Ray donated $19.99 through Super Chat. Sorry for the totally random question, but I'm having major FOMO for BG3, but have never played a turn-based game. How difficult is it to switch over for someone who has played live-action third-person games
Exclusively? Thank you for the 20. First of all, that's crazy generous. Thank you. That's Pogs right there. You are officially goated. As for how tough it is, it's different for everybody. That's the thing that makes it kind of hard to say. I really think if you are somebody that likes narratives, and narrative games, storytelling, that type of thing, you're gonna love it no matter what, and you'll learn to work with the turn-based combat. It's an adjustment because it's a much there's an actual thing in game development that they keep an eye on. It's actions or inputs per minute or per second even, and so they'll look at actions per minute that the player is doing, whether that's individual key presses or controller inputs and stuff. And they can gauge like certain types of players like X number of inputs per minute, and that's what they find engaging. Other types of players like less inputs per minute, and they find that engaging. And with BG3, of course, the inputs are way lower, which is the feeling people associate with boredom. Because they're like, I'm doing physically less. I'm pressing less buttons. I'm engaging with it less, so I feel bored. But it doesn't have to be boring. It just means that you change how you are engaging and interacting with the game. So, you may not be pressing as many buttons moment to moment, but you hopefully are paying more attention to the story. You're paying more attention to the writing, to the dialogue. You're thinking about where characters should move. So even if it's not like you're not actually moving the joystick forward to run over here, you're pausing and thinking, if I put that character there, he has this ability. And I can throw down the ice floor there, and then I can do this. I can do Thunder Wave, and I can knock them prone. And then I can do this. I can knock down the chandelier on top of them. So you're thinking probably way more actions per minute than you would normally in a third-person game, for example. But it's just shifted. So it's much more mental and cognitive than like a first-person, shooter or something. And it does take some getting used to, but it really is not that hard of an adjustment. But the common thread is that in order to like Baldur's Gate, you have to be a narrative gamer. You have to like stories and dialogue and role-playing and stuff. If you don't like those, Baldur's Gate's, it's just never going to click with you. But if you do like that stuff, it'll be probably your favorite game ever. For real. So I would really, really encourage you to try it. And you'd see people in chat are also encouraging you with it too. My wife, who had played games similar to yours, almost exclusively, such as all the Final Fantasies, has about 300 hours logged in BG3. You'll love it. Look into mods, get your style points up. Dude, yeah, there's a lot of mods too. Yeah. And if you love like D&D, if you've ever played D&D, it's just D&D, but in a video game form. So like you're gonna love it, so good. Ooh, Speed Cola, thank you for the sub with Prime over on Twitch. Thank you. But you were thinking way more and feeling engaged with the game all the time. It is one of the best games in the past 10 years. Easy. Yeah. It's one of those things that's like, it feels very different, but you just have to realize all of the activity is going to move from your fingers to your brain. And that's why some people, once it clicks, oh my God, it's amazing. But you got to give it time to do that. But it's really not that jarring. Okay. Is that desk mat available? This is like an XX, maybe even triple XL desk mat from Corsair. If you just look up Corsair XXL desk mat, you'll find it on Amazon and stuff. It's just massive, but it gets the job done. It's like 2 feet deep, so I can have my multiple keyboards on it, glowing with style. Let's see. And then Jonathan, thank you for that 5. Such as the internet. Game comes out. This looks like shit. 3 years later. This game looks great. Yeah. I mean, that's just where we are. You know what doesn't look great though? Even now. The CEO of Saber Interactive. This is This is interesting. Because basically this guy, the CEO of Saber, has some connections to the Embracer Group stuff, and had some thoughts to share, which I thought we'd look over because it's kind of insane. So buckle up. New segment. Okay. So So if you are unfortunate enough to remember the Saints Row reboot, I'm sure it doesn't need any introduction, but for those of you who have been successful in wiping it from your memory, this was just a train wreck from start to finish. The announcement trailer was shredded for being just totally like out of touch with the brand. As you can see, this comment from 3 years ago, they decided to absolutely shiz on their entire fan base and go out trying to find a new one. The main characters look more like IGN workers than actual gangsters. Okay, that's pretty funny. These main characters are looking like NPCs we run over in the good Saints Row games. Haters gonna hate, Twitter representative of a once great company. And basically it's because like the entire game was built around this reboot of Saints Row, which is historically very irreverent, very, irreverent really is the key word, but they were just like pure chaos, outrageous, unapologetic in that pursuit. And as a result, they were really like goofy, stupid fun. They were just a good time. And then they did this. You have shirtless 20-somethings riding motorcycles with kitty cat helmets. You have stereotypically like buff enemies, whatever, that's fine. But like, what are we doing? What are we doing? Already, I'm like, what? I don't connect with any of these characters. This guy's wearing a tuxedo. Why? What are we doing? It's like a tuxedo, but the sleeves are rolled up, which shows that he cares how he looks, but he's informal. Like, what? People don't dress like this, okay? They don't. But this came out at the same period and era as Forspoken. And one of the things that was interesting about Forspoken was developers having their impressions leaked, where basically they said, we were shocked people didn't like the writing in Forspoken. And this was also true. The developers of Saints Row Reboot were stunned that people teased them so incessantly over the character designs and the dialogue and stuff. They were genuinely shocked because they thought that this was super relatable, that this cast was going to be beloved and relatable. And they just were genuinely stunned that people started teasing it like crazy. And I debated this for a long time, but like a year or two ago, I had a realization, and it was like, what would have to happen for a developer to think that these characters are relatable? How does that happen? Because I don't know anybody who relates to these characters. And then it hit me. Oh, it's because the developers are these people. They are them. They just put themselves into the game because they think that everybody is like them. So they were shocked when like normal, average, everyday people didn't find it relatable and found it incredibly grating and very annoying. And they were insulted by it because it was like, yeah, everybody is annoyed by these people. Everybody hates these people. These are obnoxious. And I mean, the dialogue that's just unforgivable was the thing where they were rambling about student loans. Because it was such a clear, like, we're relatable. Try not to cringe challenge. Difficulty impossible. Are you ready for this? Buckle up. You guys put a 1 in chat when you cringe, okay? Try to hold out as long as you can, okay? Buckle up. Buckle up. Here we go.
Oh, everything smells amazing, Kev.
Already, dude. Why is he shirtless and why does he have headphones on? I don't... And then, like, he has a waffle tattoo. I just noticed that. It's like a breakfast tattoo with syrup and strawberries and then waffle and then the milk carton and then the waffle on his chest. Like, already, dude, I'm going out. I'm losing it. Sorry, already done. Okay, reset. Everyone reset. Everyone reset. Hold on, I gotta put chat on screen. I need people in the YouTube clip to see how much we're struggling. But we're gonna really try, okay? Really try. Reset. Everybody, deep breaths. Deep breaths.
You know what would make it smell even better?
Hey man, if you want a $300 waffle maker, you can buy it with the exposure the idols pay you in. Don't expect us to chip in.
I've told you before, the idols are trying to build a post-capitalist society.
Oh my god. Oh, okay. Okay. Post-capitalist. Yeah, oh god. I don't think I've ever heard in the last 20 years the word capitalist put into dialogue in a video game and it not be totally cringe as hell. I just okay. Okay. Let's keep going. We're gonna try to we have to get to the student loan part.
Society where money is not a concept.
Yeah? Then why don't you go run off and join the commune?
Thank you.
Showering. Are you gonna help me get the waffle maker or not?
As an investor, I don't like wasting money.
You're wearing a fucking bow tie.
Okay. I will throw in $20 for a waffle maker.
Nina?
Good for 10?
Who helped you move your forged paintings last month?
Fine, 15.
What sort of waffle maker can I get for $35?
Presumably one that makes fucking waffles?
Hey, the wage slave is back.
How was your first day? Were the other mercenaries nice to you?
You know, as far as hired killers go, I'd give them a 7.
You look like you could use a mimosa.
Stay strong. Stay strong.
Seriously, how's the job?
Stay strong.
It's a murder business. The fundamentals don't change, just the uniform.
I can tell you love it.
Okay. I don't have to love it. I have to pay my student loans.
Amen.
So I'm guessing that means it pays good.
Oh, God.
It's supposed to be. Got stiffed on my bone.
Oh, bro. Man. They thought this was good, guys. Again, how disconnected from from reality do you have to be like, they're gonna love this? Oh, you got to be from the planet Blockhead, population U. I don't even know how you could possibly come off looking at this scene and be like, wow, yeah, no, this is great. But this is the thing to remember. Hundreds of people worked on this. And no doubt dozens of people watched this scene and went, yeah, no, lock it in. Lock it in. It's crazy. It's crazy. But it shows you just like how there are no dissenting opinions in that studio. Nobody stood up and went, no, we're going to get destroyed. This is a terrible idea. Terrible idea. And I've told you guys, this is not news. You know, I've told you guys over the last like few years, I've done occasional consulting work on games. Many games that have not seen the light of day. Some that ended up being canceled and will never be seen. Where basically they came in and they're like, hey, can you just look at this? We'll give a little presentation. You offer your thoughts so we kind of know what to expect from public reception. And I offer my thoughts. And some of the stuff I've seen, to be fair, I think is amazing. So there are some things I've done consultancy on that I think will be awesome. And I really hope they release. Other things where I'm like, this is a bad idea. And you have to tell them that. And you have to be like, this thing you've been working on for years? No. Like, just buckle up, baby. Buckle up. It's going to be a lot. So, but like even that, I was able to communicate that and tell them that. And some of those studios, it looks like they also got the same feedback from other places. So they cut their losses and they canned it and moved on. I don't think they ever got anybody in the studio or to look at any of this that didn't just say, you guys are doing great. This is great. I don't think anybody ever provided that feedback. Otherwise, this would never have happened. I mean, this was so easily avoidable. You show the character designs, the concept art, which is one of the first things they do when they're coming up with ideas for like what the game is going to be. Before they've even designed the models of the characters. They should have shown that concept art to some outside faces. And I think those people would have been like, No, but I don't think this is Saints Row. I think this is like, it almost seems to have contempt for fans of Saints Row. Like the idea that Saints Row is going to come off and try to be like kind of PC and like eat the rich and not just like totally irreverent is so insane. It's like they hate their own players, which is really what Saints Row felt like. It was just a disaster. I mean, the whole game was just a disaster. But they've pretty much gone silent. Sadly, the developer Volition, which had a long and storied history. Company. They were OGs, man. These guys were around forever. Just earlier in the stream, we were talking about Red Faction. And these are the guys that made Red Faction way back in the day. Like 2000. Like Red Faction, I believe, was like the first game to normalize the controller layout. It was either the controller layout for FPS games or it was the mouse and keyboard layout. They revolutionized one of those. And it was super, super crazy cool and has destructible environments, even though it was made in 2000. It was super cool. But these are the guys that did that. They had that background in history. If you played older games, you know this logo. This logo's ingrained in your soul. And of course, they also made Saints Row. And Saints Row was like deeply beloved. It never did like amazingly well. They were never like the most successful games, but they had cult followings and people loved them, you know? People held them in high regard, and it was sad to see that nothing ever came of it. But then they announced this this reboot, and it just is the total opposite. It's laughably cringy and a disaster. And it was one of those games that was built for a quote unquote modern audience, which is pretty clearly a myth, because all these games have been made for the modern audience and the modern audience never shows up. And I think it's because they're not real. Gamers, like the actual customers that would have bought this, they were not connecting to it and they did not like it. They were not talking about it. They were not into it. They shut it down, teased it, and blew it up because it was terrible. But they made this game for somebody else. So all of the like original fans who liked their old school games, they were left behind and dismissed. And a lot of the dialogue and presentation of this game almost comes off as if, again, they have disdain and contempt for those gamers and those previous fans. And it was all sacrificed at the altar of the modern audience that never came, because I don't think they're out there. I don't think it's real. I've never met somebody who was like, yeah, I finally decided to play Saints Row Reboot and I loved it because I felt so related to the characters. No one has ever said that. But just now, the CEO of Saber Interactive, of all places, has come out and started talking about 2022's poorly received Saints Row Reboot. It is crazy to think it's been like 3 years. As part of an interview with GameFile, which is paywalled, so they've got little snippets of it here, Saber's Matt Karch spoke about studio closures and layoffs in general. Volition, as you may recall, was shuttered in 2023 as part of then parent company Embracer Group's previously announced restructuring program. Reflecting on this, Karch, who worked under the Embracer umbrella for a period of time before the sale of Saber assets, stated, while, quote, it would be nice in an ideal world for everyone to have a job, the Saints Row team, quote, were so expensive for what they were and therefore are gone. This is one thing that's really hard to talk about and mention without sounding like a total a-hole, okay? It's really hard to talk about this because layoffs suck. Everybody agrees to lose your job is dreadful and miserable. But there are realities of the games industry. And at some point, as you can see, it would be ideal for everybody to have a job. But the Saints Row team, quote, were so expensive for what they were. Results matter in a business context, certainly. And I think for the Saints Row reboot, it was a great example of a team that was entrusted with a lot of money and totally blew it. And you look at some of the other studios recently that have had layoffs or closures, like Monolith, for example. Monolith is a team that was crazy successful with, like, you know, their old school games, whether you look at Fear or, of course, the Middle-earth, Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War games. Those games did very well, were critically acclaimed, made a lot of money, but they didn't do anything for like 7 to 8 years. They had restarted multiple projects. A lot of the core talent had left to go form other new studios. And so what was left was a team that was largely inexperienced and never shipped a game before. And they were telling executives that they needed to restart again the Wonder Woman game. And they were caught in the same spot where it was like, well, they were really expensive for what they were, which in the case of the Saints Row team, they were a really, really expensive team that made a colossal $200 million flop and also destroyed the reputation of a previously beloved IP, which is something that you also got to remember. This wasn't just an instance of like, oh, our game flopped. No, they took an IP that was previously valued, because these IP are valued on the books. Like it's a non-tangible asset, basically. It's something that's worth a certain amount of money. That's why investors have said Ubisoft, if run properly, just Assassin's Creed and Rainbow Six should be worth together somewhere between $7 and $10 billion. Just the IP, the ability to make games in those franchises, should be worth that amount. And the Saints Row reboot certainly was not a multi-billion-dollar IP, but if it was worth $100 million or $500 million, whatever the IP was worth, it's definitely worth a lot less now. And that's not something that really gets brought up when you talk about like the studio lost money or the game wasn't successful. The brand damage has a big role to play in this, because it's kind of undeniable, you know, that was a huge component of this too. He goes on though. Quote, they didn't know what they were building. They didn't have any real direction. It couldn't last. And so who's going to fund the next game after that disaster? This is the other thing. When you're talking about the industry that's gotten more and more difficult to, like, it's become more and more difficult in the industry to justify big budget games. It just is. It's really difficult. And when you are going to an executive or to a panel of investors or something, angel investors, and you're pitching your product, how do you get them to give you money if your last thing was a colossal disaster? It's really difficult and really, frankly, rare to pull that off. It's why it was so remarkable that BioWare had been given another chance with Dragon Age: The Veilguard, because they had Andromeda, Anthem, and now they've had Veilguard, 3 games that were considered flops by EA, considered massive losses for EA. And now they're going to get greenlit to do another massive project in Mass Effect. Like that's crazy. That's very, very, very rare. You typically don't see that. He continues, the days of throwing money at games other than maybe the GTAs of the world are over. It's over. The business needs to mature, and if it doesn't, it's in trouble. This is a big piece of it. It used to be that if you made like a big budget game, you would get big budget dollars. You'd see a return on that investment roughly proportional to the money you put in, because there wasn't a lot of competition in the industry. Gamers weren't as picky. So you could put out a 7 out of 10 game or even a 6.5 and still probably do fine. Now, no. In the age of like streamers, TikTokers, YouTubers, it's just not really a thing you can get away with. Especially because like, peer pressure is a big piece of it. And nobody wants to be the one guy who's playing the cringy game everybody hates. It's just something people don't like. So you get this kind of herd mentality where everybody moves towards games together or away from games together. And then he continues, unfortunately, that means layoffs. If I were running a team in California, my goal would be, okay, who are the absolute must-haves in this group? And they exist. We have American talent at Saber, and who could do this for, a quarter of the price in Poland? Because this is also a fact of the matter. People are like, how on earth did Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 only cost like $42 million? It's because it's way cheaper to have employees in what's the name of the place that Warhorse is based? My brain is blanking. No, not Poland. Prague. The beautiful land of Prague. Prague is beautiful. I do want to visit there one day. But yeah, it's a reality of the situation when you're talking about a team. And in the case of Volition, where were they based? Volition, they were based in Champaign, Illinois. 10th most populous city in Illinois. That's a smaller area though. It's a much smaller place. Yeah. September 1st, 2023. This is still their website. Farewell. Look how sad that is. They made all of these games, and then this one basically single-handedly canned it. It's crazy. That's what happens. That's how quickly it can fall apart, man. Granted, they had been on kind of a rough ride for a little while, but still. Yeah, it just is what it is. They said 2022's Volition developed Saints Row reboot was met with disappointing critical and commercial reception. Following its release, Embracer admitted the game, quote, did not meet the full expectations and left the fan base partially polarized. This is very generous. Left the fan base partially polarized. How are you partially polarized? Either it's polarized or it's not. Do you mean only like a minority of people hated on it? I don't know if that's the case. I think a majority of people really didn't connect with it. I mean, this was one of those games where you didn't have to do anything. There was no there's been instances of like contrived hate in the industry where it feels like we're trying real hard to hate on this. It's like that one story we looked at where the guy on X shared a screenshot of an article about Fable that mentioned cross-dressing and was like, wow, the new Fable, it's going woke. This is going to be trash. And I'm saying this as a fan of the old games. Turns out it was a screenshot of an article from 2012 discussing the first game. And he didn't read the article. He was sent a screenshot of the article, took it hook, line, and sinker, and then shared it to everybody. Claimed he was a fan of the original games, despite not realizing that that was a thing in the first game. So, like, clearly just didn't know what he was talking about, but put it out there to try and, like, justify him hating on the new Fable. That's something where, like, yeah, clearly we're arguing in bad faith. We're having to contrive these things to make our points. In the case of the Saints Row reboot, though, all I had to do was play a clip of the game. And everybody is cringing their asses off. We didn't have to edit this. We didn't have to snip it out of context. I just played the entire cutscene from start to finish. And you immediately are like, oh God, turn it off. You know? You don't need anything more than that. Because it speaks for itself, you know, and Hans Niemann. The chest speaks for itself. In this case, the cringe speaks for itself, you know? And that's why, like, there's some instances where certainly I feel like there's a lot of bad faith argumentation. You guys are going one in the chat again. Okay, that was funny. There's definitely a lot of instances where people argue in bad faith with certain games. They just decided they want to hate it and they find a way to get there. But in this case, we really didn't have to try at all. You just watch the game and it speaks for itself, you know? It's really, really bad. Turn off even without sound. I can't look at it. Yeah, dude. Again, just like the shirtless thing. And you can tell they're like, how quirky is it? He has a waffle tattoo. What a quirky guy. Everyone loves quirky. I'm like, no. There was a little bit of foreshadowing in here for Dragon Age Veilguard. Do you want to hear it?
Off the set of an 80s action movie. I was half expecting her to call me Rook and threaten to take my badge.
Call me Rook. Another future cringy game that would have a character named Rook. It all ties together, man. It all ties together. So unfortunately, I'm not that surprised that this is how the Saints Row reboot story ended. I don't think it's surprising to anybody, but it was just a story of mismanagement of a game that frankly never should have been made. They should have made this character art design, shared it with people, and immediately been like, no. Because character designs reflect the tone, they reflect the art direction, they reflect all of that. And I think you can tell a lot from, or a lot about the game and the developers from those character designs. And that was a big problem people had with like Concord. It was a big problem people had with Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Saints Row reboot. A lot of these big colossal flops, you can look at the character designs and be like, okay, yeah, I can already tell what this is going to be. And it's funny that it can be whittled down to something as simple as that, but it's such a clear, like, indication of where the game is going to end up once you see those character designs. And I think I don't know if it's this desire to appeal to this imaginary group of people or what, but again, I think it's just that there's a group of people fresh out of art school that are making some of these games, and they dress like this, they act like this, they talk like this, and no one else in the actual like gaming customer base finds that relatable. They find it really cringy and distasteful and annoying. But in order to make a game that appeals to the actual customers, you have to know what gamers want and are looking for. And you can't have contempt for them. That's the biggest piece of it. Because, you know, with like Concord, we saw developers calling gamers talentless freaks for bashing the character designs in Concord and stuff like that. And it's like this, that reveals like the real contempt you have. And I'm sure that they dealt on their X profile with some people that were being horribly mean, and they probably encountered some talentless freaks, but you should be mature enough to realize that you cannot say that broadly about the people that don't like my game are just talentless freaks. You can't say that. They give theater kid vibes, but worse. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I kind of know what you mean. Yeah. I coughed and hiccuped. Oh God. I'm an artsy Gen Z nerd, and none of us are like that. I think you might be. You broke free. Oh God, it's happening again. Oh, my stomach's trying to turn inside out. Oh. It gives you the vibes of the game, whether that's actually true or not. That's what people use to gauge if they want to get into that game. Well, especially as Sanity FM, like, I think because there's been so many games that are bad that utilize that type of art style and that type of presentation, people have associated them. And it's like, was for example, I've said a bajillion times, Concord did not fail because of the character designs. Concord failed because it was a game nobody wanted in a genre that was already flooded with attention, and it cost $40. And like, there were a bullet pointed list of problems with Concord and mistakes with how they handled that. So there were many, many reasons that stacked up for why Concord ultimately failed so catastrophically. But it wasn't, I mean, the character designs were part of it. That's something people could latch on to and talk about and make fun of, certainly. But it's not like Overwatch has some pretty cringy character designs too. You know, it's not like you automatically fail if you have that. It's something you can overcome, certainly if the game is good enough. But you got to get there. You know, you got to meet the other standards, and they just didn't. But I do think because people, it's something like the human brain just kind of does. They're called heuristics. So a heuristic is kind of like a mental shortcut people can take. So you think of like a really short rule of thumb. Don't steal. It's like a heuristic. If you're going to go to the store, like, you can quickly rely on that to decide not to steal something. You don't have to pause every time you look at a product on the shelf and go, well, what is it to steal? Is stealing actually stealing in a capitalistic, whatever they said in the Saints Row reboot trailer? Like, is that actually stealing? If you're stealing from a multi-billion-dollar corporation, they're just going to write off this product. They won't even notice it's gone. Like, no, you don't have to go through all those steps because you're just relying on the heuristic, don't steal. And people also use heuristics to arrive at other conclusions with purchasing behaviors, for example, where they'll look at something and just be like, the character designs are cringy as hell. Therefore, I'm not going to buy your game. Therefore, it probably will suck. You know, they can just take that quick shortcut. It's why when I did that segment where we looked at the leaked pictures from the Horizon multiplayer game from like 5 years ago, the leaks from 5 years ago, I just have to show one freeze frame of one NPC. And you know exactly how this game is going to be presented. Yeah, it's pattern recognition. It's what is the term for that? I can't remember. But it's something where like you see it and you're like, "Oh god. Can I show it?" I don't actually know if I can find it quickly. Is this it? Oh, these are some of them. So these are from like 5 years ago. This is a slightly different one, but like, don't show it, I'll tell Jor. Luke's talking about Horizon again. But like you look at those pictures and you're like, oh. You know, everybody goes, oh. Now the game could end up being amazing. But we've just been conditioned with so many games that kind of are presented with characters designed in that way that we are like, And I don't blame players for feeling that way, but that's why it's an uphill battle for something like Horizon to overcome. Like they've got to, first of all, recognize that players will feel that way when it's revealed, and go from there. Holy hell, what are they doing with that art style? It looks like Overwatch. Why, Sony? The giant peg leg person was straight from Sea of Thieves. Yeah, kind of. The art style is stupid, that's for sure, but being an alpha build, it's possible some of these are just placeholders until real character designs are complete. Still a work in progress type thing. It's true. They could change stuff, but the art direction doesn't typically change once it's established. You can see the individual assets change, but art direction is pretty much established. I effing hope they change it. Oh man, I opened the link and ready to defend the art style thinking people here are overacting, but yeah, those are quite ugly. I hope this is a hoax or fan art or something like that. Yeah, it's like Fortnite meets Sea of Thieves, basically. Which, Sea of Thieves? Love Sea of Thieves. Love it. But I do think if you announce Sea of Thieves today, the reaction would be different. I do think people would have a knee-jerk reaction that would be more negative. Which game could still end up being really good, but they just gotta fight an uphill battle. Crap, I'm starting to like Shadows. Uh-oh. Got you. Let's see. People are just tired of that cartoony Fortnite look. Well, especially because it's so transparent, like they're trying to appeal to the Fortnite audience, and it's like, can we just make a game that's like really good and not just focus on how do we appeal to this group or that group? Like, please. Let's see. Should we look at this? Let's look at this. Jack, and he loves hot sauce. Yeah, well, I mean, that's relatable. You like waffles and hot sauce. Everybody's going to love that character. EA likely profited big from CFB 25. For CFB 26, they're doubling payments to players to $21 million total, but it's still not on EA Play like Madden. Oh, really? Oh. They make so much money from those games, dude. It's like kind of depressing. They pick one food the character likes and think that that makes them a whole character. Look at you, waffle guy and hot sauce guy. Literally, it is. I mean, you're kind of right there. They're like, what makes a character compelling? Give one of them student loans. Give one of them a love for waffles. Give one of them a funny tuxedo, but roll his sleeves up. Like, they pick one trait and then that's the whole character. It's so stupid, but yeah, it kind of reflects, I think it reflects on the general vibe of some of these people, like that they whittled people down into like their most basal forms. But what if I don't have student loans? Then the game isn't for you. Someone had to say it. Sorry, Rudra. It's not for you. We didn't make this game for people like you with rich parents or that work in jobs without student loans. How dare you? How dare you enter our space, our chat space, and talk like that? How dare you? Oh, man. Feels bad. Yeah, sure does. How dare you imply that you're more of a victim than me? I'm the bigger victim. Shut up. I have more student loans than you. Oh, it's so stupid. I have student loans. I do. I don't like talking about them. I don't want to play a game because of student loans. Like, that's not my thing. I'm good. Oh, man. Do you even have student loans, bro? Yeah, I know, right? Do you even loan out for student stuff, bro? Oh, I need to pay off my student loan. I'm close. I'm close to paying off my my student loans. I'm close. Thank you all for the amazing support and stuff. Know that I'm not like squandering the money on sports cards and stuff. I'm doing way more exciting things like paying off student loans. But I'm close. I'm close. I just paid off all of my federal stuff that I had. So now all I have are I have one little loan left from a private student loan, but it's got like the lowest like interest rate of all the ones I had. Because at the peak, I think when I graduated, I think I had like, it was either 42 or 48,000. It was something like that. It was something in the 40s. I think it was 48,000 now that I say it out loud. But I've been aggressively paying everything down, trying to get there, and we're close. Maybe in the next like month or two, we could do that. We should have like a party. We should do that. Like throw a party for it. That would be fun. Sorry, I got the hiccups. Oh. Why would criminals even care about student loans? Because they're relatable. It is like, so you're going to go kill people and rob banks. But you need to steal the money so that you can make your payment for your student loan on time. You would think skipping your student loan payment would come before mass murder, but I guess not. I guess not. Yeah, the IRS is the real villain of the game. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. German here. What are student loans? Banned. How dare you? Oh man. Okay. New segment. Okay, the time has come, my friends, for us to see the comparison of AC Shadows on different platforms. I said in my review, the game is gorgeous. I played it on PC, both my supercomputer, my gaming laptop 3070, and then my ROG Ally. It actually ran decently well on the ROG Ally, which I was impressed by because I did not expect it to like even boot. But in this little comparison, Digital Foundry is going to be able to go side by side and show console versions, show PC versions, and all of that. And I'm here for it because I haven't seen how it looks or how it runs on any of that. So I want to see. What it's like. Let's check it out. One thing I forgot to mention in my review. Don't be upset. I totally forgot to mention it. This is going to really tick off some of you, but I'm going to say it anyways. One of the changes / cuts they made in AC Shadows. You know how you go up to viewpoints to synchronize? In all the other games, you go up there and you press a button. You press Y or triangle to synchronize and the camera swoops around, right? They changed it so when you hop up, it sweeps around automatically. You don't press a button. And you can't redo that. It swoops around the first time. And that's it. Yeah, get triggered. Get triggered, losers. I can't breathe.
Assassin's Creed Shadows marks a very special milestone in the series as the first entry developed with a total focus on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series machines, and PC.
And it looks
it's
like
a bold
it too.
transition with a clear payoff in its technology, one that finally puts last-gen PS4 and Xbox One console support aside to allow Shadows the full provision of Anvil Engine's latest features.
Thank God they
Firstly,
did that. 5 years into the gen, we're finally shedding last gen stuff. I mean, granted, they've had games recently that weren't supported on Xbox One or PS4, but the engine did technically support it, so it didn't like really push the boundary. But this game really does look like a next gen AC game, which is nice. The quality of assets, the cloth sim is back, thank God. Oh my God, I've said it a bajillion times. I'll say it again. Give me cloth sim before you give me crazy ray tracing. It makes more difference. I prefer cloth sim. Give me good cloth sim.
Lighting and shadow
I gotta replace my
accuracy
headphone
is
battery.
greatly improved via a new, though still optional, ray-traced global illumination setting, while ray-traced reflections are also possible on PC and PS5 Pro. Procedural weather simulation for wind, rain, and fog are also now integrated into the world design. And lastly, we have more exhaustive use of world destruction physics.
Ooh.
All combined, the more complex nature of Shadow's world is beyond what was possible in 2023's cross-gen release Assassin's Creed Mirage, and it gives us the evolutionary jump I've long been hoping to see from the series. Developer Ubisoft Quebec debuts all of this with Shadow's feudal Japan setting, except to enjoy every new feature, to get the so-called next-gen Assassin's Creed experience, it's necessary to pick the right hardware and graphics mode.
Indeed. The destructible environment stuff too, I was expecting that to have like more of a play in the game. And there are times where you use it where you like stab through the screens and stuff. But other than that, it's just kind of fun. Like you just go up to bamboos, like a bamboo forest, and you just kind of cut your way in like your own path through it. It's kind of stupid, but it's fun. You know, I'll take it. It's just kind of stupid and fun. What are you going to do?
Digital Foundry's own Oliver Mackenzie will be dissecting the PS5 Pro upgrades in a future video, so stay tuned for that. In this tech review though, I'm tackling the base consoles, the regular PS5, Xbox Series X and S models. The first question being, does the 4 teraflop Xbox Series S still hand in a decent experience on its single 30 FPS mode, or are there trade-offs to consider?
The hair, you can really see a difference. Like just individual strands on quality mode on the X versus like the more chunky hair on the left. Huge difference just there.
And out of the 3 modes available to Xbox Series X and PS5, the 60 FPS performance, 40 FPS balanced, and 30 FPS quality options, which is the ideal way to play? Let's find out. The new tech of the Anvil engine deserves a moment in the spotlight. After all, on console and PC, this is the first series entry to officially adopt ray tracing, and it has a huge impact on the presentation of its world. For PS5, Series X and S in particular, we get RT global illumination, adding richer, more realistic ambient light bounce and shading. Alas, while ray-traced reflections are also included in Shadows, they are reserved for the PC release and PS5 Pro, meaning we resort to the screen space method for reflections on the base consoles. RTGI, though, is in place on all formats, though there is another catch to consider. Specifically, it only engages globally across the entire explorable map on PS5 and Series X using their 30 FPS quality and 40 FPS balanced modes. On the 60 FPS performance mode, however, we switch to Ubisoft's classic baked GI method, as also used in AC Valhalla and Mirage. The exception to this,
which honestly still looks pretty good. Luke, why did you choose the Ally as your main handheld? Frankly, it's because I prefer the Windows software running on it. I know that makes me sound like a heathen, but it's just frankly because I like to have like the ability to have the Ubisoft launcher to be able to test this game on it, and like the Xbox launcher to be able to play Game Pass titles. Whereas like the Steam Deck, you can technically do that. You set up like separate partitions and then you can install the launcher into that. But even that's running through wrappers because it's a Linux device running a Windows like thing. It's possible, but it's a much bigger headache. Whereas the RG Ally, you just swipe up from the bottom, press the launcher you want, and you're good to go. So for me, it's worked better, but I understand it's basically just a laptop in a handheld form, and some people hate the idea of that, and I totally get it. But for me, I prefer it. I prefer it, frankly. He's a Windows shill. I knew it. Got me. Oh no.
is the hideout area, which enables RTGI regardless of your selected mode, but will also always run at 30 frames per second. As for Xbox...
Okay, hold on. Because this was the big thing, is that they said when they dropped the spec sheet, you could turn off ray tracing. You could. The problem is it has to run at the settlement because everything's dynamic. They can't just bake the lighting because you're literally going to be moving buildings and placing objects and stuff. New trees, foliage, whatever. So it seems like that is still the case.
Is the hideout area, which enables RTGI regardless of your selected mode, but will also always run at 30 frames per second.
I want to see...
As for Xbox Series S, RTGI only appears in this same very limited capacity in the hideout area, but never beyond it.
Interesting, okay. So it's what we expected.
To show that all-important ray tracing upgrade...
Jeez, dude. So Series X performance versus quality on the right. So this is the difference between the ray trace lighting and the baked lighting.
Let's see Series X in action. For a game with such a diversity in weather states, multiple season changes, plus destructible environments, Shadow's world is more dynamic than any Assassin's Creed game before it. The domino effect being that the real-time ray-traced approach has an advantage in being more adaptable. It better simulates light and shadow interactions across a constantly changing environment, while the older baked GI method of the 60 FPS performance...
I mean, just look at the difference in shadows too. On the left, everything is just generally darker, kind of just muddy, whereas on the right you actually have the sun casting rays into the trees, so you get shadows cast on the bamboo shafts, stalks, whatever they are. It is beautiful. It makes one heck of a difference. Like, this still perfectly playable, absolutely, but it's definitely very, very pretty. And this is, to be clear, like, this is one of those games that was designed from the outset with this like ray traced global illumination in mind. Because from the outset, they're like, we're going to have different dynamic weather systems, season changes across the same map. We're going to allow players to like tear down and break apart bamboo and bushes and cut down reeds and stuff. We're going to let them destroy parts of buildings and wagons and all this stuff. So we can't just bake in all the lighting the way that we typically would do if we want things to be fully, truly dynamic. And it sounds like they were able to still find a way to do baked lighting for performance modes, even with the dynamic world. But man, you can definitely see the perks of it when you look at the quality modes.
performance mode must still rely on pre-calculated lighting states for each season. Outdoors then, the impact is clear to see. The RTGI of the quality mode adds richer, more detailed pockets of shade between objects, like these clay pots, the ox carts, and vegetation. Likewise, you'll notice it in the depth of shading on character faces in daylight, and especially the interiors of shops, where the baked GI method struggles to match up. Finally, you'll also...
Oh yeah, look at that. Just the difference between the baked lighting, where everything is just flat and flatly lit inside, versus the actual shadows that are cast when you ray trace it.
Also see an all-round improvement in lighting. Diffuse light bounce from nearby coloured scenery has an impact on the world, helping to realistically lighten shaded patches on the ground with an appropriate hue.
It was one of the crazier things. I don't think I have footage of it. I don't know where it is. I don't think I wrote it down, but there was one moment where like there was a cherry blossom tree in sunlight, like right on the threshold of a shadow like this, over being cast from a mountain. And so the sun was hitting the cherry blossom tree and the pink leaves, but then that light reflected down onto the path beneath it. And so even though it was in shadow, it had this pinkish hue to the light like it would in real life. And it was just gorgeous. But there's a bunch of little things like that that you'll notice with the ray tracing that you just can't do when you bake in lighting.
Ubisoft's classic baked GI method is still respectable, but has clear limitations. Also, sadly, all of these limits apply to the Series S release across the main world in the same manner as the 60 FPS performance modes on Series X and PS5. It oversaturates certain details with color in an attempt to match up to the RTGI lighting, while interiors and up-close character detail lack the same shading depth.
It's just what's really impressive, like, or maybe remarkable to me, is just how different the color temperatures can be too. Like, look at this side by side. Look how much cooler the color tone is when you ray trace it versus the pre-baked solution. Totally different vibe, you know, just because the shade is actually being calculated versus
while
the baked.
Interiors and up-close character detail lack the same shading depth. The other catch is that Series S only runs at 30 frames per second, so there's really no performance upside to missing out here, and it's the worst of both worlds compared to the Series X options.
Well, duh.
As a kind of consolation, the hideout area...
That's one of those things where it's like, I mean, this has been true for this entire generation, is that the Series S is the worst of all situations. It's like, yeah, it's the weakest device. Of course it's going to be the weakest one, and it's not going to run as well, and it's not going to look as good. Like, no duh. You know, if for anybody to be like, oh my god, what? It just means they haven't been paying attention for like 5 years.
Which is a small customizable sandbox that lets us decorate and plant buildings as we like, does engage RTGI on Series S. It's possible to enjoy it there, but for the rest of the game, the reality is that Series S runs at a third of the compute power of the Series X, which has a knock-on effect for its features. It's a huge win for Series X and PS5 then, and while the lack of ray-traced reflections is a shame, the RTGI allows for a much grander payoff for Assassin's Creed Shadows world design.
What I said in my review was that the game, because I see some of you asking how does it run on PC though, the game runs like it looks, okay? It's heavy. If you want to crank the ray tracing and see some crazy beautiful scenes, you can do that. You can do that. And absolutely the game will look gorgeous while you are enjoying that. But let me see if I have like a clip I can show you, because I'm not allowed to just show you a full clip. But I think I could show you a snippet of something. A little snippet, a little bitty snippet that could show you kind of what I'm talking about. Some of it, at least. No, not quite there. Just get to a beautiful vantage point. That's all I want. Oh, this is one of the boss fights. That's why I can't show you that. Hold on. Hold on. No spoilers. No spoilers. Yeah, I mean, there's just a bunch of crazy, beautiful shots where the lighting is super, super accurate. That's a store owner. But what really struck me is in like the background, you'll see shadows cast way more finely than you see in most open world games, where like actual leaves that are off camera are ray traced, or see their shadows ray traced, the branches of the tree, everything. And you just don't typically see that. Like typically things just get really muddy, especially when they're farther away from the camera. But in shadows, like it's probably one of the best implementations of ray tracing in an open world game that I've seen. Because it's not just like, ooh, ray traced reflections are better now. It applies to like everything across the board. Even a shot like this, where you can see the gradient of light from inside illuminated by the little bitty lamps to outside where it's moonlit. Just the fine gradation of light is just very, very precise, which I appreciate because I think it looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. Let's see. What else do they do in here? They do frame rate tests. They do Series S frame rate. That's its own section. Okay, we'll see frame rate tests. Let's see. We know exactly how this story is going to end.
On to performance testing, and the quality mode justifies a focus first, given it's offering a wealth of new Anvil Engine features. I'm also glad to say it's well optimized in targeting 30 frames per second. From the very opening siege on the Iga province to the rapid open world roaming on horseback with Naoe, it's broadly a locked 30 on both PS5 and Series X. The added demands of RTGI and the new hair physics aren't an issue here. The only snag I can see is actually a byproduct of using dynamic resolution scaling, again going from 1080p to 1620p. Much like other recent Assassin's Creed titles using DRS, this does, at times, cause drops where the rendering load changes rapidly. So, for example, tilting the camera skyward and then abruptly down to complex scenery gives the renderer only a moment to adjust the pixel structure. Alas, in that window, there will be dropped frames. It happens so rarely outside of these forced moments though, with battles only occasionally showing a few odd dropped frames at points as the camera pans around.
It is one of those things where like if you want to do a stress test on a game, you can usually figure out what you need to do to make it snap or break or struggle. You know, you can figure out where the heavy points are in a game and you know, demonstrate that. Sometimes it's dense foliage, sometimes it is that panning from the sky to the ground, which is like a good way to test console versions of games. But it is important to remember also that like most players are not playing like this. You know, that's not how they're going through gameplay sessions. They are going to be playing it like this, where they have the camera centered on what they're looking at and they're going to ride through the environment like that, you know?
Other than that, it's a robust 30 FPS experience on both machines. Of course, 30 FPS might be a compromise too far for some to enjoy Assassin's Creed Shadows ray tracing, and that's where the balanced mode shines. For those equipped with a 120Hz display, the balanced mode unlocks in the menus for 40 FPS gameplay instead. The resolution range drops, but the RTGI and hair physics are intact for all aspects of gameplay, and it's highly recommended. We're getting a mostly locked 40 frames per second, albeit with a similar catch to the quality mode, in that, on occasion, sudden camera movements catch the DRS off guard. PS5 and Series X are well optimized for this mode otherwise, besides the triggering of a few dropped frames. The one additional catch to this mode is that the hideout area and cutscenes will still switch to a 30 FPS cap. In fact, walking up this mountain path to the hideout causes this frame rate change in real time, 40 down to 30 and back again, as you pass an invisible threshold. It's unclear how well this area might have held up at the usual 40 FPS, but at least, for all gameplay elsewhere, we're getting an extra 10 frames per second. Rounding out is of course the performance mode, where there's no denying the advantage of a 60 frames per second update. In terms of controller response, especially while timing ripostes in combat, it's a hugely welcome option to have. We're at a crossroads though, as is so often the case this generation, between getting cutting edge features at 30 FPS or missing out at 60. And sadly, it's hard to shake the sense that we're losing a lot of what makes Shadows a next generation Assassin's Creed game while using this mode. In terms of its delivery at 60 FPS at least, PS5 and...
I'm just saying, you guys join the PC master race by spending a crap ton of money. You can have the best of both worlds. That's all I'm saying. You know, just sell your car and buy a high-end PC and then you get all of it. That's what I'm saying.
And Series X hold well at the target most of the time, but be warned that it is the mode most prone to drops. Dramatic camera swings will trigger brief lurches into the mid-50s more frequently. Thankfully, these kinds of drops are easily covered by VRR technology if your display supports it. Also, once again, cutscenes and the hideout area continue to switch to 30 FPS in this mode, which is all the more jarring coming from a 60 FPS baseline. Finally, we have the Series S version. With its single means of play at 30 FPS, you'd hope the limited use of RTGI, axed hair physics, and its significant resolution cut would qualify it for a tight lock. For a majority of the time, it does admittedly hold up well, but the reality is that there are more noticeable sub-30 drops than, for example, the 30 FPS quality mode on Series X.
I mean, I'm just be real. At this point in the generation, I'm just shocked the Series S can run anything at all. I mean, maybe that's unfair of me, but every once in a while, I just pause. I'm like, it kind of is amazing. This thing can run these games. Like it's even that's impressive. Yeah, it doesn't run them well, but it runs them.
It's not a deal breaker, but battles and cutscenes are slightly more prone to dips under the line. Unsurprisingly, it's in these moments that the 720p native resolution, the lower bounds of its DRS, appears most obviously.
Bless your girlfriend.
Hence,
Woof.
it makes sense that there is no 40 FPS balanced mode on Series S after all.
It's also, I mean, you can see the FSR stuff they're using. They're trying to upscale this like crazy just to fix it and clean it up. But I mean, this is what happens when you have a device that's basically just a 1X that's a little souped up. It's like, yeah, it's going to struggle 5 years later.
Brawl. It's already seemingly at its limit at 30, though at the very least, it holds at the target well in the hideout area with RTGI engaged there. Assassin's Creed Shadows is the series' most exciting new entry in years, with PS5 and Series X at last showing off their mettle via new Anvil engine features. Simply put, the more physics-based, ray-traced nature of its feudal-era Japan setting is the absolute star of the show this year. The drawback is that we're forced to decide between 3 modes, a Hobson's choice that either grants 60 FPS gameplay or a more exciting suite of visual upgrades at 30 or 40 FPS. Looking purely at the base consoles here, I'd recommend the 40 FPS mode if possible to demonstrate where the series technology is headed. As for the Series S version, the situation is less impressive. It's the closest we may see to a last-gen rendition of the game in many ways. The cut resolution, the lower texture quality, shadows, limited RTGI, and removed hair strand physics, plus that 30 FPS cap are all hard pills to swallow. The adventure is otherwise...
Yeah, but I mean, it's also like, you should know what you're getting into with the budget option. I mean, it's the Series S's promise was never to provide the best place to play game, like modern games. It was to just provide you the like most affordable place. And it's doing that. It just is, I mean, as he's describing, he's like, yeah, there's a lot of things you give up, you know, gives the game personality. It's Series S's last gen. No, the Series S is basically an Xbox One X that has, you know, a few upgrades here and there, but foundationally, what people that are way smarter than me have said in their tech analysis of it, is that it's basically a 1X, which was like the late generation upgrade from the 1X, that came, last gen. And so I understand why Xbox put it out there. The whole premise of the Xbox marketing strategy right now is play the games you want to play anywhere. We should make it available to anyone, anywhere. My frustration is that the Series S is literally the lowest common denominator and the weakest link. The fact that it runs at all on the Series S is kind of amazing to me. Especially when you play Shadows, you'll see how dense some of those environments are. It really is crazy, but it's wild. Jack, thank you for the 5. I'll stand by this. The Series S is the worst console ever made in terms of negative effects on the gaming industry. It holds everyone back. Unless you have the tech to scale, I don't think you're necessarily wrong. I mean, it's like if they were to try and be like, hey, we're going to develop the next gen Red Dead Redemption game, but we're going to support the Nintendo Switch. I think everybody would be like, what? Really? Is that what? I think we'd all roll our eyes. And that's unfortunate, but I do think that that's what people would do. And I think it's because when you have to develop for the lowest common denominator, for the weakest link, you're going to make sacrifices and there's going to be things that are held back as a result. And it's just, it's too bad. It's too bad because I do think that they have, in their pursuit of accessibility for these games at the lowest price point, they also have ended up making some specifically AAA cross-platform games less ambitious than they would have otherwise been. Isn't a Series S comparable to a PC build from 10 years ago? It's tough, but I mean, what you're talking about with the Series S is a console that runs these games at a base resolution of 720, and they typically, with this game, it's 720, and it tries to upscale it to 1080. And that is a weaker machine for sure. I mean, that would be considered a low budget PC build nowadays. But it's also $300. I don't think you're going to get a PC built for that price. Maybe there's people that have done it, but it's a budget device and that's what it's meant to be. And it succeeds in that, but it's not there. PS5 Pro performance. The PS5 Pro performance, I've heard from a couple people I know that have been playing it is pretty damn good. Shocker, it's the best place to play. I think they show it here. So yeah, this is a great little breakdown. The Series S runs it internally at 720. It does TAAU upscaling, trying to get to 1620p. Okay, I stand corrected. It tries to go up to 1620. Ray traced global illumination only in the hideout. You can see PS5 performance. Do they show the Pro though? Because this is all just PS5 Pro or PS5 quality mode. Series S, PS5, graphics comparisons, RTGI. I don't think they show PS5 Pro. PS5 Pro AC Shadows. So PS5 Pro performance. 60 frames per second, standard ray tracing. So the Pro is able to still turn on ray tracing, but shoot for 60. That's impressive. And then it can also do extended ray tracing and just target 30. And that's where it adds in ray traced reflections, it looks like. At least some. So, I mean, again, no shocker. The Series S is the weakest place to play it. The PS5 Pro is the best place to play it on console. And there's a lot of bells and whistles you get on the PS5 Pro that you do not get on the base consoles, which is what I like. Like, my thing is if the game doesn't run at 120 frames, that's fine. But it needs to look like it can't run at 120 frames, right? Like, you need, if you're going to not be able to achieve crazy high frame rates, I need it to look like it's not able to achieve crazy high frame rates. My problem with certain games that have come out recently, like, you know, Monster Hunter Wilds, is that they do not look particularly good, and they run like, not like they're the most graphically impressive game ever made, you know? And that doesn't work for me. Doesn't work for me. If you're gonna struggle to maintain 60 frames, you need to be one of the most visually impressive games I've seen in a minute on a 4090. You know, it needs to be gorgeous. It needs to be very impressive. But instead, you know, we've been getting games that really struggle to to perform at all and struggle to look half decent. Shadows, whatever, you know, you want to say about the game, in terms of the graphics technology, is crazy impressive. With what they're pulling off in terms of global illumination and the like physics sim, hair sim, cloth sim, all of that's very, very well done. And as a result, you know, it's heavy. If you crank every dial, if you turn all of the game settings up to ultra, even on like a 4090, you're going to be 70, 80, 90 frames, something like that, without frame generation on. I don't use frame generation. I don't really like it. I don't really use it moment to moment. I like VSync turned on. Otherwise, my capture gets screwed up and I have screen tearing. What are you going to do? Let's see. Pisser is not used in AC Shadows on the Pro. It's using the same upscaler, but the Pro has RTGI in performance mode. Oh, there you go. They didn't need no Pisser. They don't need no Pisser. I'm loving my Pro, to be honest. I'm glad. I mean, I'm still shocked that Xbox didn't even try to do a mid-gen refresh of anything. I mean, I'm like, really? We're not? But it looks now like they're going to do a handheld, and they're going to do their own update console, but they're only going to do that in 2027. So I guess we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Let's see. Does the whole soundtrack sound like this? Lips they are playing? It's horrible. I'm not sure what that means, but as for the whole soundtrack, what they did is they hired, hold on, AC Shadows soundtrack. Where? Yeah, Teke Teke. That's it. This is, yeah, they're from Montreal. That's what it is. But they are a band, a psychedelic rock band, whose music blends Japanese rock and surf rock influences. They are most noted for their album Shirushi, which was a long-listed nominee for the 2021 Polaris Music Prize. So they're like a lesser-known band, but they are like, as you can see, a psychedelic rock band that fuses Japanese rock and surf rock. Whatever that means. I'm not musically talented enough to know. But they're the ones that did like the soundtrack for AC Shadows, which is why it sounds a little bit more rock heavy. I mean, you can see genres. Aleki, I'm not sure what that is. Experimental rock, psychedelic rock, enka, noise punk, art rock, avant-garde, hip-hop, film soundtracks, Bulgarian music, and Brazilian music. So they're very eccentric. This is not your standard, like, the game's set in Japan, let's just play flutes for 40 hours. That's not what this is. So you might love it, you might also hate it, and I think that's fine. But I thought Kendrick had the soundtrack. He was busy with something else. Yeah. He was busy with something else. Yeah, he's working on some other stuff. Oh. Yeah, I like it. It's different. Honestly, I dig it. I didn't think I would. After the preview event where I heard more of it, I was like, I like some of the tracks that they've put in. Like there's the moment early on with Nawe that kind of sets her story off. No spoilers, of course, but there's a moment that kind of sets that off. But like there's been other moments where the music picks up and I'm like, oh, that's a little different. That's a little weird. But I think on the whole, I like it. On the whole. Is Shadows the start of a new trilogy? Not really. It's tricky because here's just what to understand, okay? Where's my... Oh yeah, I forgot I still have this up from earlier. So my understanding of what they're doing right now, okay? This is, I don't know what we call this, Jacob. Luke deep dives the future of AC after Shadows or something. I don't know. But your question is this the start of a new trilogy of AC games? Is Shadows the kickstart of it? And the answer is like probably not in the way that you're thinking, because the way you're probably thinking is that, oh, so Shadows is, whoops, wrong tool. Shadows is this game, and this game is going to lead into, a game Y, and that leads into game Z, and these are part of the trilogy, kind of like Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla were, right? But that's not really what Ubisoft is doing now. What Ubisoft is doing now is that Shadows is here. Okay, we'll just do a circle with an S in it. So Shadows is here. It's expected by the end of this year, we probably get a Black Flag remake. Okay. Black Flag. That is not really part of the trilogy. It's kind of a spin-off separate project. Okay. After that, next year, we're kind of expecting them to do probably Hexe. And Hexe is expected to be like a more linear horror psychological thriller style game, not an open world adventure game, not an open world RPG, very different from the last three games. Even very different from Mirage as well. It's supposed to be like something pretty different, like very, very unique that we haven't seen Ubisoft really try before. So Hexe is going to be totally different. After that, we probably see one of like the multiplayer games or something, because there's been rumors of, I don't know what letter that is. There's been rumors of like a multiplayer game or two that are in the works. There's one that seems like it's maybe going to be inspired by like the black box missions they did in like Unity, which sounds super cool. There's another one that I think Tom Henderson reported is much more, it's like an arena game where you're playing against other players and you're playing as different assassins fighting each other. Whatever that ends up being, we'll see. But the rumors and what we understand right now is that this probably comes out at some point. So after Shadows, the next 1, 2, 3 games, probably not open world adventure games at all. After that, we probably see like, I forget the code name of it, but there's another one that's coming that's supposed to be across like 3 different settings. There was that one game that was rumored and speculated for a long time that was going to be set and follow like the Aztec civilization. Who knows if and when we see that. But the point is like the start of a new trilogy kind of implies AC China. Well, that's the thing, is there's also somewhere in here, really anywhere in here, is Jade. And Jade is that mobile game that's basically done. That was developed by like Tencent, some Tencent studio. And funnily enough, they stopped work on Jade, it seems. They moved a bunch of resources away from it to go and work on their Fall Guys ripoff, which is funny because we have all the things you're going to do. But apparently Jade is basically done. They did play tests of it, I think, last year, and a lot of people played it. I did not. They said I could, and then I didn't ever get to play it. Same with Jor. They said, Jor, yeah, you can try it. And then they just never emailed us the access, which was weird. But the footage that leaked basically made it look like AC Odyssey set in China, but it runs on your phone, which is crazy. But apparently, like, that's just how graphically impressive it was. It's really, really crazy, but that it even runs. But that's coming at some point. I mean, that could come out tomorrow. That could come out in August, September, October, something like that. They do that in the fall. Or it comes out next year, or maybe it never comes out. Who knows? Who knows? I have no idea. But the point is, if you're thinking like, oh, Shadows is the start of a new trilogy, not really. Because after Shadows, they have a number of other games that are going to come out before the next big open world game. And who knows if that's going to follow the like design philosophies of Shadows. Because, I mean, chances are after Shadows, this team, the Quebec team, is going to move on to, I don't know, maybe they're going to move on to help with this game, or maybe they start on their own thing. I really have no idea what they're supposed to be doing next, but I don't think of the future of Assassin's Creed as doing what they've done for the last, like, I guess at this point, like 7-8 years. They're not going to be doing Shadows. And then there's Assassin's Creed Light. And then there's Assassin's Creed, I don't know, Shade. You know, like, they're not going to be doing that like they did Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla. They're going to be shaking it up with a lot more niche games, because they also at some point, you know, in here there's going to be the Mirage team, and they're releasing something that's original, because Mirage, of course, started as a DLC for Valhalla, was turned into a standalone release because they're like, ooh, this is coming together pretty nice. So they turned it into its own game, but they've been allowed to start working on their own standalone game from scratch. So a stealth game comes out at some point that's built to focus entirely on stealth. And this is the strategy from Ubisoft, is instead of having the big ol' Valhalla, or sorry.
Assassin's Creed
Valhalla, instead of having the massive Valhalla games, now they're just going to shift the strategy, and they're going to, instead of having this game that does everything, they're going to try to have smaller games that target individual niches within the fan base, which I think is probably a better choice, frankly. If you're going to do something, do it well. There it is. Now I can go to sleep. You're welcome. And still charge 70. I don't know, man. I'm really curious, frankly. Like, I do think that the Black Flag remake probably costs 50 to 70. That would be my guess. Remember, they charged a discounted rate for Mirage. Mirage wasn't like the full price that they could have charged for it. Hexe, probably full price. Yeah, I think that's going to be a big budget game. That's going to be a big one. This is going to be huge. The multiplayer game, who knows? Maybe this is like free to play. Maybe it costs $20. I really have no idea, but it'll be interesting to see what they do there. The stealth game probably will be a big one too. That's probably going to be full price. But again, I'm okay with paying full price for a game if it's a really good game. I just don't think you can make a really good stealth / action / combat / multiplayer / whatever the crap game. I think you need to focus. And if you focus all your effort on making a good stealth game, I'm sure it can be great. You focus all your efforts on making a really good multiplayer game. Okay, I'm paying attention. You're not trying to make it Valhalla, but now with 50 players, like, okay, I'll pay attention, but you got to focus. Hexe devs can learn a lot from AC Shadows. Well, this is the thing. So the Hexe devs are Montreal. Montreal did Valhalla. And so this Hexe project is basically the total opposite of Valhalla. Like, Valhalla was all about volume and quantity of content. Hexe reportedly seems to be much narrower. Like, think of your typical Naughty Dog game. That's basically what they're trying to do. Like a dark, gritty Assassin's Creed game set during the witch hunts in Germany. And they have some like magic mechanics and stuff at play. and it's just all about like dark, gritty, mature, like rated M for mature through and through. That's going to be totally different. But imagine that with the production quality of like a $400 million budget, a $300 million budget. That could be fire, dude. That could be fire. Like, but we'll see. From what I've seen of a lot of reviews, it's an 8 out of 10 experience, except for Mortismal, who did not recommend it. Yeah, it's not for everybody. It's way slower than you probably think it will be based on Valhalla, for example. But reviewers are different. You know, that's the nice thing about getting a taste of a bunch of different reviewers' opinions. Because, like, Mortismal said Dragon Age of Veilguard was likely going to be his game of the year 2024. He loved it. In his review, he said it was his front runner for game of the year. But SkillUp tore that game a new butthole. So, like, you got to take a look at everybody and get a feeling for it. It's not to say that the reviewer is necessarily like wrong. It's just the key is to understand why the reviewer said what they said. Because it doesn't do any good. Excuse me. It doesn't do any good to just be like, oh, Maddie loved it. Oh, SkillUp hated it. Okay, I weight their opinions like this, so therefore I'm going to buy it. It doesn't work that way. You need to understand what they liked or what they didn't. Because, like, for me with Avowed, I had a nightmare of a time getting through Avowed. Tons of broken quests, broken areas on the map. Like, it was a disaster for me. But I was an outlier. And I made it clear in my review, the reason I had a bad time was because of the technical problems. If the game worked well, I'm sure I would have had a much better time. And I think it'd be an easy recommend on Game Pass. So you have to go a little deeper and look into why, like, Mortismal doesn't like it. Look into why Luke liked it. Look into why this and that, That's the key. You look rich. What do you do for a living? I'm a sugar baby. So I just, like, follow your mom around and she throws money at me. It's pretty chill. No way Hexay's budget is $400 million, probably just 100. I mean, by the time it comes out, like, let's see, because it's probably a smaller team that was working on the expansions and DLC. So it's probably by the time it comes out, it will be like a 3 to 4 year project, probably. And they have, I mean, Montreal, not everybody at Montreal will be working on it, to be fair. Like, Montreal's a huge studio. Ubisoft Montreal employees? Employee count, maybe? Yeah, just Ubisoft Montreal has over 4,000 employees. That's crazy. Now, again, not everybody there is working on Assassin's Creed Hexay, but a lot of them. So, like, it's probably like 800 people, or 600 people that are actually working on Ubisoft or on Assassin's Creed. But still, that's crazy, dude. It's a huge studio. And this is Ubisoft Montreal is the one in that, like, iconic building. Remember all these pictures from all those, like, old magazines and stuff? The, like, big brick building. It apparently used to be like a factory for making clothes, whatever they call that. Like there's a term for it. There's a name for it. I don't remember what the name of it is. But they worked in textiles, and then the building was bought out by Ubisoft ages ago, and it's just ballooned into like this massive studio. Yeah. Random thought, what happened to the Witcher remake? It's still going. Textile Mail, that sounds right. Sweatshop. Yeah, that. Those famous Canadian sweatshops. We've all heard of them. Man, Are hoods and masks toggleable in AC Shadows? Yeah, there's full transmog. So if you don't like the way an outfit looks, but you like the effects it has, you just make it look like a different thing you have. Easy. Like one of the things I had for Yasuke was a helmet that had certain stuff I liked, but I didn't like the way it looked. It looked really stupid. So I just transmogged it, which is nice. 4,000 people. What do they even do to fake they're working? To be fair, that's like 4,000 people. And some of them are like accountants. Some of them work in finance. Some of them are marketing. Some of them are IT, doing engine upgrades. Some of them are working on Just Dance. I mean, like, it's not just AC, you know. I'm sure some of them are working on Rainbow. Wait, which team does Rainbow? Rainbow Six. Hold on. Does anybody know? Oh yeah, Ubisoft Montreal. Ubisoft Montreal does Rainbow Six. So like the Rainbow Six Siege team is in Montreal. So a lot of those 4,000 people are working on Rainbow. But CDPR in total is less than 2,000. 4,000 is insane. To be fair, like just Rainbow Six is like generates billions. Like Rainbow Six, according to investors, this is not necessarily according to me. Okay, this is according to investors. Rainbow Six is on paper like a more valuable IP than The Witcher. Like it just prints money because it's like a giga live service game. It's ridiculous. What's also interesting is that this, yeah, and CDPR does way less, way fewer games and stuff. What's interesting is that Rainbow Six's update is in Anvil Next 2.0. And this engine is the same one that they're using in AC Shadows. It's the same one they're using for the Black Flag remake. It's the same one they're using for all of their other like multiplayer games. So the goal is that they're just going to have this giga engine that's able to do anything and everything, and they can share tech across all of it. You want a quick shooting level? You do something crazy with a modern day sequence in AC Hexe where you get pulled out of the Animus and you have like a first person shooting segment. Cool. Copy and paste it from Rainbow. Same engine, just copy and paste it in. That's kind of the idea. Ubisoft should license Anvil Next to the industry. I don't know. It like the investments they've made in it are crazy, and I think they view it as a real, what would the term be? A competitive advantage. Competitive advantage. So I think that the odds of them sharing it are very low. They're like, no, we put all the effort into this. We're not sharing. So, you know, Tencent would cut like 40% of the staff. Yeah, Jack. I mean, what investment analysts have said is that Ubisoft, based on the money they've made the last handful of years, should have about half the employees. Now, Ubisoft, I'm sure, is saying, well, we hope to make more in the future so we don't have to get there. They had 20,000 employees at like the start of COVID. As of today, I think they have like 18,400 or something like that. So they've done a lot of layoffs, certainly. But yeah. It's an interesting predicament they found themselves in. So anyway, we'll keep an eye on all of it. I think AC Shadows is probably going to perform pretty well. I think all of the AC fans that were kind of hesitant to jump in after the reviews are going to be like, okay, yeah, I think I'm good. And I think they're going to boot in and they're going to play it and have a good time, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's going to revitalize some morale in Ubisoft, and it's going to excite people again because morale in the studio has been pretty poor, I'm sure. So I think they're going to feel a little bit more excited at this point. And as I've said, if they can, after this, come out swinging with like a Black Flag remake that's good and AC fans connect to and with, that I think goes a long way. That I think could really start to swing the pendulum back for Ubisoft and help them start kind of climbing back up. But they've got to be consistent. They've got to be tireless in their work. They cannot fall back on their laurels and start getting greedy. You know, no paid battle passes in Animus Hub. Swear to God, don't do it. They've got to keep their heads on their shoulders and stay hungry and understand that they're climbing out of a pit right now and they need to stop dropping lower. So hopefully, you know, this energizes them to start to figure it out, because nobody should be rooting for companies to die. Nobody should be rooting for people to lose their jobs unless they really, really, really deserve it. And I hope that Ubisoft figures their crap out, because, you know, they're OGs in the industry and they made, you know, some of the most recognizable IP in the industry. They've just been like stepping on every single rake possible for the last 5 years, basically. And I hope that they can turn it around, but time will tell. But, you know, these reviews for Shadows, I think, are solid enough for them. You know, they really just needed, I think, to avoid the 5 out of 10s. That was the thing. I think they were worried that this was going to be like a Star Wars Outlaws situation, where pretty much everybody was like, yeah, probably wait for patches, wait for this, don't buy it right now. They couldn't handle that. So yeah, I think they're probably pretty happy today. That would be my guess. That'd be my guess. Let's see. Yeah, but like next gen fans are disconnected from the OG releases. I agree. People who like loved Valhalla are not going to go back and play and love AC2 probably. Like they're very, very different games. I totally agree. But that's why I think they're breaking up all these experiences into different standalone games. So if you like the stealth stuff, there will be a standalone game for you. If you like the melee stuff, there's a standalone game for you. If you like multiplayer stuff, there's a standalone game for you. I think that's what they're trying to do. Oh, man. It seems like a few of the big name reviewers are missing. I know a couple people who just weren't able to finish it, so they've just put their reviews on hold. There were some people I know that didn't get codes at all. But hello, how are you? You're eating a cookie. Mrs. Princess Wife is here. Hello. Bye. You just came into pose. Oh, love you too. I can't breathe. Love you. Yeah, that's the problem. I cough, I hiccup, and then chat makes fun of me. That's just
as they should. Bully him out of it.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong with me. Someone help. Not you. Okay. Okay. Let's do I think I got through that. I don't think I really have time. Let's see. I don't have time to get through that. Okay. Yeah, I think we got through that. I don't think we have time to go through the Death Stranding thing I wanted to go through. Have we talked about the Neil Druckmann interview? Yeah, we touched on it. I think we put up the stream clip yesterday. Have I seen the Assassins anime? I have not. Munmeet, what is my rating for AC Shadows out of 5 stars? I don't really do numbered scores or star ratings. I just don't think it's that helpful, and inevitably it's reductive, and people are like, so you gave it an 8.5, but you gave this other game this score, and you know, people throw fits over it. So I just, you know, how many ninja stars though? That's funny. That's funny. Let's see. Okay, let me catch up on these real quick so I don't miss any of those. Let's see. Mincy, thank you for that €5 super chat. Hey Luke, why I'm not saying it's a bad game, but I think it was while I'm not saying it's a bad game. I just don't understand how Ghost of Tsushima can come out 5 years ago and have better graphics. I don't think on a technical level, Ghost of Tsushima has better graphics than Shadows because it didn't have like global illumination, stuff like that. I think where Ghost of Tsushima excelled was in art direction. And I think that's the key difference. Because Ghost of Tsushima is not trying to be a photorealistic game. It's not. Whereas Shadows is. So I think Ghost of Tsushima just has, I don't know, like better art direction or a different art direction. Because it's not trying to be photorealistic. Like, it's just not. Which I think it's beautiful. I think it's a gorgeous game. Partially because it was not trying to be photorealistic, you know? Yeah. But I mean, when we talk about graphics, I think that there's a certain technical aspect of that. And everything from like hair sim, cloth sim, global illumination, density of foliage, number of assets, detail on the assets, destructible assets. There's a lot of things that like Anvil, the engine, is doing that Ghost just wasn't able to do, which makes sense. It was a PS4 game, but it's yeah, I think it's the art direction that you're connecting with mostly, which is totally fine. You know, the game is certainly gorgeous. Nobody's going to deny that. Cured Madness, thank you for the 5. Does the whole soundtrack? Oh, we did touch on this. Yes, with the band and everything. We did talk about that one. Thank you again for the 5. Jack, thank you for the 5. I'll stand by this. Oh, yeah, we read that one about the Series S performance. Steven, thank you for the 2. This show, PS5 Pro performance. We did read that one, too. We talked about that. Let's see. It was funny in Hidden One's review, he got a companion killed, panicked, and immediately loaded a previous save. Save scummers, I tell ya. I killed off like 2 or 3 separate companions. Well, one of them got killed off. One of them I pissed off, but like, you know what I mean? I didn't get them anymore. But that was one of the things I didn't really go deep in the review because there's no way to really talk about it without spoiling it. But the companion system is kind of cool in AC Shadows. The companion system's kind of cool because you can have these like dedicated quest lines to get a companion, or ally is what they call them. And then you can work with them in combat and bring them in with their combat abilities to help you fight, which is super cool. But at the end of each of their quest lines, usually there's something that happens where they can die, they can be romanced, or they can be pissed off and leave. Like there's all sorts of things that can happen, which is kind of cool. Did somebody say sumo women? Is a sumo woman in the game? If you mean the large woman that was in some of the like trailers and stuff, yes, she's in the game, and she is one of the people that is no longer with me. But I will leave it there. No spoilers. I'll just say that. Yeah. Yeah, she's like a warrior monk, not technically a sumo wrestler, but yeah, she's no longer with us. Jack, thank you for the 5. God bless. God bless you too, my friend. God bless. Did I call her fat? I don't remember at this point. Am I supposed to say plus sized? Whatever you want me to say, dude. I'm kind of fat. I feel like I've got my fat card, you know. I feel like I can do that. Trying hard to get rid of it, you know. Trying hard. We're getting there. Lots of working out. Large and in charge. Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's good. You have a solid muscle base. I appreciate that. Yeah. No, I used to go hard lifting and at the gym and stuff, but you know, life happens. Parenthood happens. You are not fat, dude. Well, I'm a recovering fatso. Yeah. I am trying hard to lose the weight and I've made a lot of progress, but you know, I used to be a lot plumper than I wanted to be. But we've worked hard to deal with it, because I wasn't really happy with where I was at, so I worked my booty off, and you know, we made progress. So you're a traitor. Yeah, I guess I'm a traitor to the cause. I guess that's what it is. I glow with style. Thank you. You guys don't have to riz me up. It's okay. You already have me. Let's be honest. PT Tron, thank you for the sub with Prime, my friend. Thank you for that. Well, everybody, I think we are gonna call it there. I'm guessing my wife came down to check on me because she wants to take the kids on a walk or something and go to the park. So that's what I'm going to do. I think we'll call it there. And as for whether we'll stream tomorrow or Friday or whatever, I'm not certain, mainly because I have a dentist appointment and I don't know how long it's going to take. It's like a first appointment at this new dentist office, so I don't really know what to expect. But so long as I don't get back way late, I will come back and stream. I just don't know how long the dentist appointment will take. Make sense? Fair? Need to schedule mine. Thanks for the reminder. You're welcome. Yeah. Everyone, go right as we end the stream. Go schedule your dentist appointment. Go do it. You'll appreciate it. Okay. Much love, everybody. I'll see you soon. Hugs and kisses. Thank you for the amazing support, super chats, memberships, subs. You guys are fantastic. I love you desperately. And go watch the review if you haven't seen it yet. Much love, everybody. Bye-bye. Mwah.